Chapter 72. In Shina Kushina's house, which has gradually developed into a small base for Garashi. Cheers. For Woodleaf. Amidst the excited clinking of glasses and cheering, the sweet juice splashed out. Before today, they were still people of the same world, but after today, they will run into a different future. So, the only thing they can do is to cheer and vent. On this side, Asma and Ibixi hugged each other. "Ha, Ibixi, let me tell you, if you don't have such a foul mouth, you are very cute." "Oh, actually, I also admire you." "I have a foul mouth consciously, but you can also have a foul mouth unconsciously." "When did I have a foul mouth? Is it wrong to tell the truth?" "It's not wrong to tell the truth, but the way you speak is really asking for a beating." On the other side, Shizun and Kurinai were discussing in a low voice. "Kurinai, I may leave Woodleaf with Tsunade-sama today. Although I knew this day would come, it's still too sudden. When I'm not here, you must take care of Garashi." "Well, I will do this kind of thing even if you don't tell me." In the middle, Mizuki and Garashi were talking. "Mizuki, I heard that Orochimaru-sama accepted you as a disciple." "Well, he wants me to practice senjutsu." "But isn't your chakra still lacking a lot?" "He said that he will find a way to solve it." "Is it because of the curse?" "No, Yugo shouldn't be born yet. Then is it because of the first-generation cell research?" Garashi's mind turned, and he warned with a serious expression, "Although this may not be appropriate for me to say, Sensei did say that Orochimaru-sama has changed so much that even she can't recognize him. In short, you must be careful. The village said that Orochimaru is the most likely person to become the fourth-generation head Naruto, but Garashi not only didn't care about his identity, but also took the initiative to remind me to be careful of Orochimaru." A warm current gushed out from Shueimu's heart. Sure enough, in this world, only Garashi truly cared about him. However, risks are often accompanied by benefits. For a mediocre ninja like me, just looking at Garashi's back is already very difficult. If I want to become his most useful tool, I can only do this. Of course, Shueimu knew why Orochimaru would take a fancy to an ordinary person like him, but in order not to let Garashi worry, he pretended to be relaxed and said, "It will be fine. Why would Orochimaru harm an ordinary person like me? I must be thinking too much. Then, let's celebrate you becoming the disciple of Orochimaru." "Yes, I will definitely." At this moment, a ninja wearing goggles rushed in. "That's amazing. You'll never guess who I'm in the same class as." "Oh, it's Bordered Soil. You guys graduated too?" For Sir Bordered Soil, graduating a year early is nothing. "Don't interrupt, you haven't guessed yet. Look at your excited look, you must be in the same class as Rin, right?" Although I am indeed in the same class as Rin, but that's not what I want to talk about." Seeing the playful smile on everyone's face, Bordered Soil guiltily changed the topic. "It's Kakashi." Hearing that it's Kakashi, many people were puzzled. Didn't Kakashi graduate several years ago? Moreover, I heard that he became a chunin the second year after graduation. Bordered Soil scratched his head. It seems that the team he was in before, except for him, everyone else died in a mission. Because he didn't have time to be assigned to a new team, he simply decided to be in the same class as us. Garashi raised his eyebrows. Should I say that he's worthy of being a real protagonist? This heavenly cursed Lone Star ring was too dangerous. Bordered Soil continued, "Also, the jonin that the village arranged for us to guide us is Minato-san. I was worried that it would be one of those old-fashioned people. It turned out to be Minato-san." Asma said, and couldn't help but tease, "Bordered Soil, how bad is your strength that you arranged such a powerful teacher to balance the strength of your team?" Bordered Soil's face darkened, and said with a stare, "You still have the nerve to talk about me, aren't you the last in the senior team?" "I what?" Asma said, and finally woke up. "Wait, how do you know our class situation?" Bordered Soil waved his hand indifferently. "The class situation is out, and it's posted on the notice outside the school." Hearing this, everyone in the living room couldn't help but be curious, and one by one, they rushed out shouting. Only bordered soil was left in the room, dumbfounded. I haven't even started to celebrate yet. At night, Garashi looked helplessly at the three people in front of him. Sensei, you don't have to leave in such a hurry, right? Jiraiya laughed at the side. If we leave during the day, there will be too many people who can't bear to part with us, and it'll be ugly with so many people crying. Tsunade looked at him with disdain. Can't bear to part with the toilet paper you give us every month? Jiraiya retorted, how is my book toilet paper? At least it's an excellent toilet reading material. Tsunade chuckled and ignored him. She turned to look at Shushi. With your current ability, I don't have much to teach you. How can that be? I still have a lot of things to ask Sensei. You only lack experience, and time will be your best teacher. Tsunade said, and her face suddenly became serious, and the last lesson I'm going to teach you is to allow you to officially practice senjutsu. With your current amount of chakra, you should be able to resist the erosion of natural energy. Garashi said seriously, I understand. I don't know senjutsu, and there's nothing I can teach you. But you've already signed a contract with the Shikatsu forest, you can ask Sensei Katsuyu when the time comes. Jiraiya warned from the side, although senjutsu is powerful, don't rely too much on it, because before you enter sage mode, there will be a period of time when you leave the battle to refine senjutsu chakra. And this process is stationary, so it's very dangerous. Shushi nodded. Unless his chakra is as abundant as Naruto's, and he can use shadow clone jutsu to help him refine senjutsu chakra, or he can enter sage mode instantly like Hashirama. Otherwise, this ability is destined to be used as a trump card. Seeing that the few of them had finally finished talking, Silent Sound walked up. Garashi, this is my uncle's experience of practicing spirit transformation jutsu. You just exchanged for the spirit transformation jutsu today, this experience may be useful to you. Garashi took the book, smiled, took out a kunai, and handed it to Shizun. In the case where the perception range is too far, I can't use Flying Thunder God to directly teleport, but it's still possible to send some letters, although it's only one-sided. Jiraiya looked at this scene, stunned. Naruto-sama used the ninjutsu that shocked the shinobi world to pick up girls. I learned it. Shizun took the kunai carefully, and then suddenly stepped forward and lightly pecked Garashi's face, chuckled, and ran away. Garashi, you will definitely become the greatest ninja in Woodleaf. Chapter 73. The next day, early morning. In an empty classroom, Garashi and the other two had already arrived in advance. Oh, Sensei is so slow. After waiting for a while, Asuma yawned impatiently, looked to the side and asked, Garashi, I heard that Tsunade-sama and the others left Woodleaf? Garashi flipped through the experience of spiritualization jutsu and replied without raising his head, they left last night. Asuma sighed sadly, growth is really accompanied by troubles. In the blink of an eye, so many familiar faces are gone. Kurenai glanced at him, don't say it like we won't see each other in the future, bastard. Asuma shrugged indifferently and asked, have you heard that our instructor seems to be a Yamanaka Jonin? Kurenai nodded, I heard, and then? Asuma smiled, the Yamanaka Jonin's frontal combat ability doesn't seem to be strong. Do you think the village thinks that the three of us are too powerful, so they deliberately arranged a weak Jonin to balance? What are you? Kurenai turned her head and laughed unladylike, what are you doing? Asuma had 2 pens inserted in his nostrils, and he made a victory sign with a happy face. Release. With a light shout, the classroom door was pushed open, and a young ninja who looked to be in his 20s walked in. Never underestimate any ninja, this is the first lesson I teach you. By the way, Asuma-san, it's very rude to speak ill of others behind their backs. Garashi and Kurenai hurriedly greeted him, Yamanaka-sensei. Asuma, who was saved, rubbed his nose and looked resentful, I know. The young ninja smiled helplessly and walked to the podium, let me introduce myself first. My name is Yamanaka Inoichi. My interest is planting flowers and grass. My dream is probably to have a child in the future and train him to be an excellent ninja. Asuma muttered softly, why do I feel like the old man is more energetic than him? Naruto Sama is old but not old at heart. Otherwise, how can you be born at the age of 42? Yamanaka Inoichi glanced at him. Of course, he only dared to think this in his heart. As for my ability, my technique is a secret spiritual technique used to control the enemy's body. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. In a sense, Asuma is not wrong. My existence is to make up for your shortcomings in intelligence and perception. Asuma glared at her. Then why did you play with my body? Yamanaka Inoichi's mouth twitched. What is this? Asuma-san, has no one ever told you that a straightforward truth is annoying? Although Yamanaka Inoichi said that he was useless, Garashi didn't take it seriously. Any jonin is an elite who grew up on the edge of life and death. They are at the top of ordinary ninja. Even if he's just an intelligence ninja, his strength is absolutely not to be underestimated. Asuma muttered in a low voice, that guy Ibiki seems to have said the same thing. Do all ninjas who do intelligence like to play this game? I've finished the introduction. As for the three of you. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. I've already heard about you, so there's no need to introduce you. How can this be? I even prepared a speech to shock everyone when I went back last night. Asuma, who was eager to introduce himself, was stunned, but he soon cheered up again. What about strength? You have to understand our strength to better cooperate, right? Indeed, interests and hobbies can be understood from intelligence, but real strength can only be observed through actual combat. Yamanaka Inoichi didn't refute this time. So, you three will show me an actual combat exercise. Asuma, who was rubbing his hands, was stunned. Wait, isn't it the three of us who will fight with you, sensei? Yamanaka Inoichi calmly waved his hand. I'm a jonin. How can I bully you newcomers? Asuma was still a little suspicious. Really? But I heard that other instructors jonin will fight on their own. Yamanaka Inoichi's face remained unchanged. I'm different from them. As an intelligence ninja, I can analyze your approximate strength as long as I watch from the side. In addition, another reason for those jonins to fight is to let newcomers see the gap in strength, but you are all geniuses. I don't think it's necessary to take this step. Asuma nodded in agreement. That's true. Kurenai couldn't help but give him a blank look. Where did you get this confidence from? Is it because you lost too much that you built some strange confidence? Seeing that Asuma finally didn't entangle more on this matter, Yamanaka Inoichi was secretly relieved. If he didn't know the strength of the three of them in advance, maybe he would have really overturned today. After all, what he was best at was his family's secret spiritual technique, and there were two genjutsu ninjas with strong spiritual resistance. What's more, he really couldn't see through Garashi's strength. However, Hatake Kakashi became a chunin at the age of 6, and now I heard that he has the strength close to jonin, and his talent is stronger than Kakashi. Even if he lacks pressure and tempering, his strength is estimated to not be weaker than Kakashi. Thinking of this, his belief in not fighting became stronger. If he was defeated by his own student on the first day, would he still have dignity as a teacher? Ahem, let's go to the test now. They came to the grove behind the school. Asuma and Kurenai are in a group, and Garashi is in a group alone. Do you have any objections? Yamanaka Inoichi divided them according to his understanding of the situation. I have an objection. Asuma raised his hand. Oh. Asuma-san wants to fight with Garashi alone? Yamanaka Inoichi nodded with relief. As expected of Naruto-sama's. Asuma calmly interrupted, I'm fine with it, but if Yamanaka-sensei really wants to know our true strength, it's definitely not possible. This time it was Yamanaka Inoichi's turn to be confused. Why do you say that? Kurenai next to him said with a bitter face, because it's over too fast. Huh. Asuma added, it's the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. If Garashi doesn't use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, we can still fight normally, but once he uses the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, the battle is over quickly. Flying Thunder God Jutsu? Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes widened. Although the document recorded Garashi's experience of exchanging the Flying Thunder God jutsu, he didn't think about it at all. After all, this is the most difficult space-time ninjutsu among the S-class ninjutsu. In his view, it's lucky enough to have Namikaze Minato succeed in this era. Actually, I also recently succeeded under the guidance of Minato-san. Garashi said modestly. But, aren't you a medical ninja? Yamanaka Inoichi still found it difficult to accept. Without waiting for Garashi to speak, Asuma skillfully comforted, in order to appear in front of every injured person in time, it's reasonable for Garashi, as a medical ninja, to know some space-time ninjutsu. Chapter 74. Yamanaka Inoichi's three views were shocked, and he looked to the side and asked, "Is this reasonable?" Kurenai nodded vigorously, "This is very reasonable." "Is it because I'm too strange?" Yamanaka Inoichi tried to calm down his inner shock and barely squeezed out a smile. "Then how do you think we should test it?" Asuma didn't care. "In fact, I'm used to losing, but if you don't want to witness a battle that ends in 3 seconds, then you can only let Garashi restrict the use of Flying Thunder God jutsu. Even if I'm an intelligence ninja, it's impossible to analyze any useful information in 3 seconds. Yamanaka Inoichi sighed and then looked to the side. "Garashi, I have to wrong you." Garashi didn't care and smiled. "In fact, it's not bad. Relying too much on one ninjutsu will only leave flaws for yourself. Even if you master such a terrible ninjutsu like Flying Thunder God jutsu, you don't have the slightest idea of carelessness?" Yamanaka Inoichi nodded secretly. Compared with talent, he was actually more optimistic about the other party's temperament. Geniuses are very powerful, but only the geniuses who live to the end can be remembered by everyone. Geniuses who die in the middle are nothing. On the field, Asuma had taken the lead in launching an attack. Katan, Ash Concealment Jutsu. In an instant, the forest was shrouded in a thick smoke. The temperature is rising? Garashi didn't dare to neglect. While opening the perception barrier, he stepped on the tree and ran upward, trying to get out of the smoke. Seemingly aware of Garashi's movements, Asuma no longer hesitated. Wind release, great gale. The smoke, which was originally in the state of embers, burst into flames under the blow of the wind. It's really troublesome to deal with this kind of attack without 5 elements release. It seems that it's time to put the practice of 5 elements release on the agenda. Garashi easily escaped the pursuit of the Sea of Fire and even had time to think about the future. Sure enough, Garashi's perception is too sharp. Asuma sighed and no longer hid, fully controlling the Sea of Fire. While Asuma was controlling the Sea of Fire, he had also exposed his position. "Is it there?" Garashi's eyes narrowed and he completed the seal almost instantly. Illusion, magical sound wave. The ferocious Sea of Fire suddenly calmed down, but in the next moment, a huge fire snake bit towards Garashi's location. It's Red's illusion. Garashi understood. Although Red's attainment in illusion was not as good as his, it was still easy for her to disrupt Asuma's chakra flow and awaken his teammates. At the same time, Red, who had been hiding from the beginning, made another seal. Illusion, dark sneak technique. Red also knew that her level of illusion was far inferior to Garashi's, so from the beginning, she had never thought of resisting head-on. She left the task of attacking to Asuma, and she only needed to be the support and awaken. Yamanaka Inoichi stood on the branch of a big tree, watching the battle condescendingly. Seeing the endless high-level ninjutsu, his heart twitched. Are these little guys really genin? If I don't count their family's secret ninjutsu, I feel that they have mastered more high-level ninjutsu than I do. Although it was dark in front of him, Garashi did not panic. The heat wave coming towards him allowed him to clearly determine the direction of the attack. After easily avoiding the fire snake's bite, Garashi bit his finger and summoned the blood contract. Summoning technique. In the next moment, a huge slug with a body length of 10 meters appeared in the forest. Garashi, Sama. The slug called out politely. Although the slugs of the Shikatsu forest were theoretically part of the slug sage, but just like the shadow clone jutsu, these slugs could also be regarded as independent life forms. Otherwise, Garashi would not dare to accept the slug sage's honorific. Slug, I'm now under genjutsu and can't observe the surroundings. I'll have to trouble you to act as my eyes for the time being. Garashi stood on the slug's huge body and said softly. Yes, Garashi-sama. The slug happily replied. After all, Dark Walk is only in genjutsu, it can't really change the sky and the earth. The slug who was not affected by the genjutsu could naturally see Asuma's attack. With the subtle cooperation of the slug, Asuma's continuous attacks all missed. Not only that, Garashi also controlled the slug and quietly moved in a certain direction. Although Dark Walk is an A-class genjutsu, with Garashi's strength, there's no reason why he can't break it. Seeing Garashi summon the slug, Asuma was puzzled at first, but after noticing the direction the slug was moving, he finally woke up. Kurenai, hurry up and remove the genjutsu. Garashi deliberately didn't remove the genjutsu, he wants to use chakra to find you. He couldn't help but be nervous. Without Kurenai's help, with his genjutsu resistance, he would be killed by Garashi in an instant. Kurenai, who was hiding in the corner of the forest, was shocked and hurriedly removed the genjutsu. However, it was too late. After recovering his sight, Garashi jumped a few times and appeared in front of Kurenai, who was preparing to escape. Golden Bind Jutsu. Kurenai, who had no time to move, was directly fixed in place. Seeing this, Asuma decisively raised his hand to surrender. Garashi couldn't help but laugh. He unbound Kurenai and then shouted to the top. Yamanaka-sensei, the test is over. Yamanaka Inoichi jumped down from the tree and looked at the tragic scene around him. When his eyes moved to Garashi, his heart twitched and blocked. Fortunately, I didn't play today, otherwise, would have played it out. Being affected by an A-class genjutsu, deliberately not removing the genjutsu, and even relying on the connection of the genjutsu to find the caster, is this really something that a human can do? It was the first time he saw someone spiritual will be strong to this extent. He even suspected that if he used the turning jutsu on Garashi, the result would be no better than Kurenai's. Asuma came up and winked. Yamanaka-sensei, our strength is okay, right? Yamanaka Inoichi suppressed the shock in his heart and looked at him and asked, why are you so proficient? What proficiency? Oh, you mean surrender. Asuma's face was full of bitterness. When you are defeated in the same way 1,000 times, I believe you will have the same awareness as me. If it was before, Yamanaka Inoichi might have despised him, but now, he looked at Asuma with a trace of sympathy and admiration. It must be hard to be an opponent with such a monster. Ahem, in fact, your performance is already very good. Except for the ninjutsu connection that is still relatively immature, the strength of ordinary chunin is not necessarily comparable to you. Just a chunin. Asuma sighed with melancholy and asked with interest, what about Garashi? Yamanaka Inoichi was silent for a moment and hesitated. I don't know, but in the field of genjutsu, he should be able to reach the level of special jonin. Chapter 75. Garashi didn't comment on Yamanaka Inoichi's evaluation. If Woodleaf Jonin is the benchmark of the ninja world, then Tokubetsu Jonin, in fact, it's hard to say what particularly outstanding performance. Therefore, even Asuma disdainfully curled his lips. I don't believe that Tokubetsu Jonin's genjutsu is as powerful as Garashi's. Kurenai also nodded. Yes, I heard that Hatake Kakashi is considered by many people to have the strength of Tokubetsu Jonin. Seeing this, Yamanaka Inoichi said with some madness, Tokubetsu Jonin is also very powerful, okay? Since when can even genin look down on Tokubetsu Jonin? However, when he thought of Garashi's previous performance, he was relieved. Geniuses are different from ordinary people, and monsters and geniuses can't be lumped together. Ahem, let me comment on the previous battle. First of all, Asuma and Kurenai, your performance is indeed worthy of the name of geniuses, but... Yamanaka Inoichi warned with a dignified face. Both of you are too focused on the role of high-level ninjutsu. High-level ninjutsu is powerful, but at the same time, it also has the drawbacks of slow printing and chakra consumption. Just like in the battle just now, since there are two of you, you should take advantage of the number of people and the frequency of your attacks. Use ninjutsu that takes less time to make hand seals to force Shushi to be exhausted. Asuma was a little dissatisfied. Yamanaka-sensei, you may not know, but Garashi's medical ninjutsu is super powerful. Ninjutsu with too little power won't work on him at all. That's why I emphasize cooperation. Yamanaka Inoichi said earnestly, then looked to the side and asked, Garashi, the secret of your medical ninjutsu is Inu Wushuang Mia, right? Actually, it's a low-level version of Inu Wushuang Mia. Garashi didn't mind telling the secret at all. Inu Wushuang Mia is to grasp the enemy's attack in advance and cover that part with yang release chakra in advance. It's too dangerous to predict the enemy's attack in the battle, so I simply take the initiative to guide the injured part. Asuma looked at Garashi and suddenly realized, no wonder you always used to attack by yourself. It turns out that you want to control the situation in your own hands. Do you understand? Yamanaka Inoichi looked serious. In fact, you've lost in the control of the situation. If you can predict Garashi's actions, then you can use the simplest jutsu to cause the most effective damage. Asuma pondered for a moment and then said, what if Shushi predicted my prediction? Inoichi's TS is SSSSSSSS. What if Garashi predicted that I predicted his prediction? Yamanaka Inoichi's mouth twitched, and he simply ignored him. As for Garashi, you did very well in terms of the use of ninjutsu and timing, but that doesn't mean you have no weaknesses. Garashi said softly, is it an AoE attack? Yamanaka Inoichi was a little surprised. It was easy to see others clearly, but it was difficult to see oneself clearly, especially for those young and famous geniuses. However, this kind of worry didn't seem to happen to Garashi at all. Your main AoE attack is a group illusion, right? But just like in the drill just now, once the enemy has a ninja with strong illusion resistance, it will be difficult for your group attack to have any substantial effect. Garashi nodded approvingly. Because genjutsu can be awakened by chakra's disrupted flow by its companions, it does have a lot of limitations in group combat. In addition, your means to deal with the enemy's attack are also poor. Just like Asuma's fire release before, the general ninja can use earth release to defend, wind release to rebound, and water release to extinguish, but you can only keep dodging. With that, Yamanaka Inoichi added, although this is under the condition of restricting your use of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, that kind of esoteric ninjutsu consumes a lot of chakra. It can be achieved with ordinary release jutsu, so there's no need to waste your chakra. Garashi also heard Yamanaka Inoichi's meaning. Are you suggesting that I practice 5 elements release? If it's an ordinary person, I wouldn't recommend them to do this kind of energy-wasting thing, but you're different. Even the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, a super difficult spacetime ninjutsu, can be successfully practiced with both genjutsu and medical ninjutsu. Speaking of this, Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but show a look of envy and amazement. With this talent, even if you practice 5 elements release, it shouldn't take too much time. At least, under the premise that it doesn't involve advanced release. Garashi smiled. In fact, even if Yamanaka-sensei didn't say that, I was going to start practicing 5 elements release. Sure enough, he's worthy of being my favorite person, even his thoughts are the same as mine. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded with appreciation and added, however, remember to practice it without affecting your major ninjutsu. Garashi said with a smile, about this, Yamanaka-sensei, you don't have to worry. Because, I have nothing to learn in these 2 aspects. You know it in your heart. Yamanaka Inoichi was stunned and touched his ear doubtfully. What did you just say? Kurenai blinked playfully. Garashi means that he has learned all of Tsunade-sama's medical ninjutsu and my father's genjutsu. Seeing Yamanaka Inoichi's confused expression, Kurenai's heart also found a trace of comfort for her father who was squeezed dry early. In fact, according to her father, Garashi's talent in genjutsu is stronger than medical ninjutsu, and her father's strength and foundation are not as good as Tsunade-sama. Because of this, Shushi's illusion technique had to be explored by himself since 2 years ago. Yamanaka Inoichi's breathing suddenly became rapid. Not a human being, this is not a human being, right? One is the strongest medical ninjutsu in the ninja world, and the other is Woodleaf's #1 genjutsu ninja. Learning all of their jutsu is almost equivalent to hollowing out all of Woodleaf's medical ninjutsu and genjutsu. So, standing in front of me is actually an emotionless learning machine, right? Yamanaka Inoichi struggled to suppress the soul of ridicule in his heart and reluctantly smiled. Ha, then I don't have to worry. After that, Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes subconsciously moved to Asma. Asma, who was a little confused, asked, Yamanaka-sensei, is there a problem? Oh, nothing. After regaining the confidence of a normal genius from someone, Yamanaka Inoichi said, the cultivation of the 5 elements release is inseparable from the change of form and nature. Although you may have already understood it, as your instructor, I will explain it routinely. Chapter 76. Form change and nature change, as the name implies, is to change the form and nature of the jutsu so that it can exert more power. In fact, any release contains both form change and nature change, such as the Great Fireball Jutsu. The nature change is the flame, and the form change is the sphere. Garashi secretly pondered, according to his understanding, the nature change is the chemical change, and the form change is the physical change. Yamanaka Inoichi paused and then asked, since it also contains the nature change and the form change, do you know the difference between low-level ninjutsu and high-level ninjutsu? Garashi said softly, is it a characteristic? Yamanaka Inoichi was a little surprised, you know? Garashi nodded slightly, I learned about it in the book. Yes, it's a characteristic. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded, for example, the sharpness, rotation, hardness, penetration of the form change, and the high temperature, paralysis, moisturizing, vitality of the nature change. Just like the fire dragon jutsu and the C-class ninjutsu, it sounds powerful, but what's the use of turning into a dragon? It looks scary. But the flame-sharp spear in the form of a spear is different. Red, who didn't know much about the 5 elements release, interrupted, Yamanaka-sensei, but isn't the flame without a physical body? Even if it turns into a spear, it can't be like a real spear, right? So, the most important step in the high-level form change is to compress chakra. Asma explained, you should have seen Garashi's Rasengan, which has a physical effect under high compression. Asma is right. Yamanaka Inoichi agreed, just like the Reikage Sandame of Yunnan village, his Raiton armor in addition to activating the body, the high-density Raiton chakra also has the strongest defense like armor. Seeing Red nodding, Yamanaka Inoichi continued, as for the nature change, take fire release as an example, a series of characteristics such as high temperature, burning, bursting, light, etc. High-level escape techniques usually fused several characteristics or continuously deepened one characteristic. For example, the flame of the Grand Fireball technique is only at the temperature of an ordinary flame, but the dust concealment technique that Asma used in the previous battle can reach an extremely high temperature in an instant. Of course, not all situations are like this. There are also combinations of ninja tools and release techniques. The combination of release techniques can also achieve the effect of high-level ninjutsu. Yamanaka Inoichi asked again, by the way, Garashi, have you tested your chakra attributes? Garashi nodded. My attributes are earth, water, and wind. 3 attributes? It's not bad at all. Yamanaka Inoichi said with a smile, with your talent, maybe you can use combination ninjutsu like Naruto, Sama in the future. Speaking of combined ninjutsu, Garashi skillfully asked, I heard from Tsunade-sensei that when 2 types of chakra are combined at the same time, a new ninjutsu will be created. Tsunade-sama? Yamanaka Inoichi was slightly lost and immediately smiled. Tsunade-sama may want to talk to you about Mokuton. After all, Tsunade-sama's grandfather was the first dame who used Mokuton to pacify the warring states. Listening to Yamanaka Inoichi mentioning the most legendary first dame, Asma and Kurenai were also faintly excited. How is Mokuton integrated? Can we learn it too? Seeing their excitement, Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but laugh. Mokuton is the product of the combination of water chakra and earth chakra. Among you, only Garashi meets the conditions. However, don't think too much about it. Developing a Kekii Genkai boundary is not something that can be successfully developed as long as there is a corresponding attributive chakra. Otherwise, Naruto, Sama would have developed more than one Kekii Genkai boundary. Kurenai asked curiously, has anyone developed it successfully? Yamanaka and Noichi pondered for a moment. In recent decades, it seems that no new Kekii Genkai boundary has been born, but looking back, there is a Kekii Genkai elimination. Kurenai tilted her head and asked, Kekii Genkai elimination, what is that? Yamanaka and Noichi looked dignified. That is the fusion of 3 attributes of chakra. Its power is completely above the Kekii Genkai boundary. The dust release of the 3rd Tsuchikage is the Kekii Genkai elimination. The 3rd Tsuchikage even developed a 3-attribute Kekii Genkai elimination. Asuma was shocked at first, and then immediately disdained. Old man, this Sandame Naruto is too bad. He can't even develop a 2-attribute Kekii Genkai boundary. That Kekii Genkai elimination was actually developed by the 2nd Tsuchikage. The 3rd Tsuchikage just inherited it from him. Yamanaka and Noichi hurriedly explained, almost breaking out in cold sweat. Even if Naruto, Sama is broad-minded, this kind of thing is hard to ignore. Worried that Asuma would say something shocking, he quickly changed the topic. Ahem, let's continue to talk about Mokuton. Do you know what's so powerful about Mokuton? Well, I don't know. Mokuton doesn't have the softness of water release, nor the thickness of earth release, but it has a powerful characteristic that no other release can compare to, absorption. Kurenai asked puzzledly. Absorption? It's absorbing chakra. Kurenai and Asuma were shocked. It can even absorb chakra. Isn't this release too powerful? Just think about it and you can understand how terrible it is to be able to absorb the opponent's chakra in battle. Yamanaka and Noichi smiled. Although Mokuton is powerful, the real power is Shodame-sama. If it's someone else, even if they have Mokuton, they may not be able to absorb the enemy. Or, they can only absorb the amount of chakra of an ordinary genin or chunin. It doesn't mean anything to the battle. Garashi listened and nodded secretly. It's the same Mokuton, but in the hands of Shodame-sama and Yamato, it's 2 completely different concepts. One can absorb as much as he wants, and the other can hardly absorb. It can only be absorbed as interference, slightly suppressing the enemy's chakra flow. If you look at it from the perspective of my previous life, one can only be Dark North Divine Art, and the other can only be Hua Gong Daijitsu. The difference is Sage Body, Yang Release, or Yamato's chakra is too little, resulting in insufficient horsepower to absorb the enemy. Asuma and Kurenai also calmed down from the shock. Indeed, no matter how powerful a ninjutsu is, it won't be much of a threat in the hands of the weak. Do you understand? Yamanaka and Noichi smiled. Just like the high-level ninjutsu you used before, in my opinion, it's not as threatening as the great fireball jutsu of other jonin. Asuma nodded thoughtfully, then whispered, I always feel that Yamanaka-sensei seems to look down on the great fireball jutsu. Huh, do I? Yamanaka and Noichi smiled. Let's stop here today. Starting tomorrow, we'll be ready to accept missions. P.S. Anime 608 Hashirama said to Madara that this wood dragon can absorb your chakra. In episode 582, Metke said that the wood guy is absorbing the Kyubi chakra. Chapter 77. Shikatsu Forest, on a huge green leaf, Garashi was sitting cross-legged. Breathe, 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 breathe in self-hypnosis. Garashi seemed to have forgotten all the troubles around him. Almost every breath he took was in harmony with the wind, as if he was perfectly integrated with nature. The next moment, eyeshadow lines began to appear at the corner of his eyes. Wow! Garashi-sama is really amazing. Hey! The first time he practiced, he entered sage mode. In these soft and cute cheers, Garashi slowly opened his eyes. The first stage of sage mode is not difficult for me, but if I want to use sage mode in a normal battle, I have to at least reach the second stage of sage mode. Shushi muttered to himself. The second stage was actually a division based on his own understanding of it. The first stage is to refine in a static state for a period of time, then enter sage mode. The second stage is to enter sage mode in a moving state. Just like Jiraiya's sage mode, although the two sage toads were fixed on his shoulders to help him refine chakra, they were not really motionless, they could still release ninjutsu. Based on his own experience, the sage mode's stillness was more about inner peace. Immobility and small movements were just easier to achieve this state. As long as he can be calm in battle, it is possible to reach the second stage of sage mode. As for the third stage, it is to enter sage mode in seconds. Even in his opinion, this stage is too far away. Thinking of this, Garashi dispelled sage mode, stood up, and looked at the giant slug in the center and bowed. Slug Sage, thank you for guiding me in my training. The giant slug, which looked like a mountain range, moved its body and said in a gentle voice, "Little Shushi, it's your own hard work that allowed you to cultivate the sage mode. If there's anything you need help with, please feel free to tell us." In a sense, this was one of the reasons why he chose the Shikatsu forest. Compared to the Great Toad Immortal's prophecy from Mount Mystic Wood and the sinister White Snake Immortal from Dragon Ground Cave, the transcendent and indifferent Immortal Slug should be the least threatening. I understand. Thank you, Immortal Slug. After expressing his gratitude, Garashi began to form seals. Spirit communication technique. The next moment, a small slug appeared in front of Garashi. At the same time, in wood leaf. The big slug that had been summoned by Garashi in advance looked at the position where the little slug had suddenly disappeared and muttered to itself, "Is it done already? Then I'm going to start working too." As it spoke, it tried to extend its clumsy antennae and touched them twice symbolically. Ha! Reverse spiritual communication technique. As soon as he finished speaking, Garashi returned to wood leaf. Looking at the familiar surroundings, Garashi smiled and said, "Thank you, slug." The big slug happily twisted its antennae. "This is what I should do." After releasing the summoning technique and sending the big slug back to the Shikatsu forest, Garashi went to the mission center. In front of the mission center, Asuma leaned on the pillar with his hands on his head. "Garashi, you're so slow today." "Sorry, I just finished cultivating." Asuma noticed Garashi's raindrops and fresh breath, and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "You're cultivating so early?" Garashi smiled, "Only when I'm cultivating sage mode. After all, cultivating in that state of tranquility is almost the same as sleeping." At this time, Yamanaka and Noichi walked out of the mission center. "Now you know the gap. Geniuses aren't terrible. What's terrible is that geniuses work harder than you." Asuma calmly shrugged. "I knew this when I was 5 years old." Yamanaka and Noichi smiled helplessly. "Then it's really hard for you?" Kurenai asked excitedly. "Yamanaka-sensei, what level of task are we going to take?" Garashi also rarely said, "I hope it's not a D-level task." Even he didn't think that a task like finding pets to pick up garbage would have any growth. Seeing the three students looking at him, Yamanaka and Noichi couldn't help but smile. Under normal circumstances, genin can receive D-level and C-level tasks. However, it's not so easy for a new team like us to receive C-level tasks without any experience. Yamanaka and Noichi walked into the mission center and said, "Among them, the first thing to be excluded is the escort task." Asuma asked, "Is it because it takes too long and affects efficiency?" In fact, it's because the employer of the escort task attaches the most importance to safety. Even if all of you are geniuses, without any mission experience, no employer will agree to let you take on a mission. Yamanaka and Noichi stood in the sea-level task area and introduced one by one. "This is taming a large beast. Unfortunately, it's taming. If it's hunting, you should be able to receive it." This time it was Kurenai's turn to wonder, "What's the difference?" Garashi said with a smile, "It should be worried that the failure of the task will scare away the target. Therefore, this type of task will have relatively higher requirements than hunting." Yamanaka and Noichi nodded. "That's right. When you take a task in the future, you have to be like Masashi. Pay attention to the subtle differences." A real ninja should be able to analyze the necessary information before taking a task. Let's take a C-rank mission for example. The mission reward is usually 30,000 to 100,000 taels of silver. Missions that are time-consuming and dangerous will have a higher reward. Since we don't have a clear competitive advantage, most of the missions that we can receive are relatively low-quality missions. So, the task that's really suitable for us is this. Yamanaka Inoichi's right hand brushed across the task interface and finally stopped on a scroll on the left. Exterminate the mountain bandits. The task reward is 60,000 silver. Looking at the content on the scroll, Asuma suddenly became excited. Will there be a chunin in it? Yamanaka Inoichi was a little dumbfounded, not to mention a chunin, even a genin is unlikely. Asuma sighed with disinterest. What? Boring. However, Yamanaka Inoichi's expression was dignified. Ninja is also a human, and he will die if his head is cut off. There used to be a newcomer like you who always thought that ordinary people were nothing to be afraid of. As a result, because of arrogance, he was surrounded by the enemy. He didn't have time to print and was finally dismembered by the ordinary people he looked down on. Although Asuma didn't feel that he would be so unbearable, but after the teacher's reminder, he put away the contempt in his heart. Yamanaka-sensei, I understand. Seeing that the three of them were all dignified and ready to go all out, Yamanaka Inoichi had some regret in his heart. Should I not have reminded them? With their strength, it's a massacre if they get serious. If they are careless, it can be regarded as training. Oh, poor mountain bandits, I'm sorry for you. Chapter 78. Within the borders of the country of fire, within a lush forest. A group of 4 people galloped and jumped on the trees. Yamanaka-sensei, isn't this an era of peace? Why are there still so many bandits? Thinking of the long list of commissions he saw on the task list, Asuma was somewhat puzzled. Kurenai also said, although I knew the outside world wouldn't be too peaceful, I didn't expect it to be the same in the country of fire. The country of fire is vast. Even with the suppression of the daimyo's army, it's impossible to eliminate all the bandits in the country with our woodleaf ninja. Yamanaka Inoichi was somewhat helpless. Compared to those small countries, our country of fire is actually very peaceful. Garashi sighed softly. Even chaos is regarded as peace. Such a world must be sick. Asuma joked, is this the occupational disease of medical ninja? You want to cure everything you see. Garashi shook his head gently. People are sick. There are medical ninjas to treat them. The world is sick. Who should we find to treat it? Asuma was full of confidence. Of course, it's up to us. But before he could finish, Yamanaka Inoichi reminded, here we are. The 4 of them had passed through the forest and there was a mountain village in front of them. Seeing this, the 3 of them also quieted down and listened carefully to their sensei's arrangement. According to the description of the task, there are a total of 47 bandits in this mountain village, and we can't rule out the possibility of missing or hiding. Yamanaka Inoichi glanced at the 3 of them and smiled slightly. How to distribute an attack, it's up to you 3 to discuss. With that, he consciously walked to the side and quietly watched their performance. He also wanted to know what kind of conclusion his 3 genius disciples would come to. However, Asuma's first sentence almost made him break his waist. I think it can be like this. Garashi is in the middle, I will go left, Kurenai will go right. No one is allowed to grab the opponent. Kurenai looked at him contemptuously. You know that Garashi and I ended the battle quickly with genjutsu, so you said that, right? Asuma said righteously, it's because I'm slow that you should let me find more feeling. Red blinked her eyes blankly. Was it an illusion? Why do I feel that Asuma's tone is somewhat proud? Seeing that they were still seriously discussing, Yamanaka Inoichi coughed twice. Cough. Have you forgotten the key points of infiltration and assassination in the ninja manual? Asuma said righteously, as long as everyone is dead, isn't it a perfect infiltration? That sounds reasonable. Of course not. Yamanaka Inoichi was a little crazy. He could guarantee that if he wasn't worried that this was Naruto, Sama's teaching, he would definitely let Asuma understand what the depth of love is. Cough, Garashi, what do you think? After calming down, Yamanaka and Noichi looked at him expectantly. I don't really care, but... Garashi smiled and said, since it was Asuma's suggestion, let's just listen to him. Asuma patted Garashi's shoulder. Good brother. Garashi smiled helplessly. He didn't know that the stories he told in class in order to get closer to him in the first grade would really lead a certain second-generation kid astray. He had to take the blame for this. At the same time, in the village. Brother Sigma, there's news from Woodleaf. The bearded bandit said. The one you bribed from Woodleaf to help us pay attention to the mission bounty? The one-eyed man sitting on the main seat asked. Yes, it's him. The bearded man nodded again and again. He said that someone has entrusted the mission to eliminate us. Hearing this, the surrounding bandits were a little panicked. That's Woodleaf, ranked first among the 5 great ninja villages. Damn, which bastard entrusted it? What should we do? Should we hurry up and break up? Quiet. The one-eyed man shouted discontentedly and then asked, how much is the bounty? It's 60,000. Only 60,000? Sigma sneered. According to the information we heard, 60,000 is only below average among their sea-level missions. This kind of mission is generally only accepted by genin. Hearing this, the bandits who were frightened by Woodleaf's fame also relaxed. So it's just a genin, that kind of ninja who only knows 3 body techniques is not much stronger than us. That's right, it's not like we didn't kill those ninjas in the country of Kawa. The bearded man quickly praised, Brother Sigma is worthy of being the man who will become the bandit king, a mere ninja. However, Sigma stared at him, I just told you not to panic, but we still have to run. The bandits were a little confused. Brother Sigma, Konoha is different from a small ninja village like Tangyin. There are 2 kinds of genin teams. One is pure genin, and the other is led by chunin jounin. If it's the latter, we have no ability to resist at all. Sigma looked at them coldly, so, after this last mission, we will go to the Wind Country. The bandits were a little hesitant. Boss, the Wind Country is also one of the 5 major countries. Idiot. Only the 5 major countries have money, like the country of Kawa. We can't rob 10 times as much as the country of fire. Sigma said calmly, as for why the Wind Country is the largest, and the strength of the ninja village is the lowest among the 5 major countries, as long as we don't go too far, those ninjas won't have time to care about us. As expected of Brother Sigma. After this last mission, we will. Suddenly, there was an explosion outside the hall. Sigma's face was gloomy. They won't come so soon, right? Let's go out and see. The bandits walked out of the hall uneasily, and then, they saw 3 children standing outside. Only 3 people? Thinking of Brother Sigma's explanation, the bandits were relieved. As long as there's no legendary chunin. Sigma took 2 steps forward and pulled out his sword. You are Woodleaf's ninjas? Asuma held his chin. You don't seem surprised. Sigma looked at him. Don't underestimate the bandits. If you leave now, I can pretend that nothing happened. Garashi tilted his head. Are these your last words? Sigma's face was cold. I've killed 56 arrogant guys like you. Before he finished speaking, a huge fireball flew towards them. The bandits wanted to escape, but they found that they couldn't control their bodies, and they could only watch themselves being engulfed by the flames. Seeing this, Sigma felt his hands and feet were cold, and he screamed, impossible, how can they be genin? On a tree in the distance, Yamanaka and Noichi looked strange. Is this considered infiltration? It should be, right? Chapter 79. Mountain Mist. Boom! With a single punch, a huge crater appeared on the flat ground. Looking at the little guy standing in the hole, the giant boar's eyes showed a trace of fear. Don't come here again, do you understand? Garashi's voice was gentle and soft, but in the giant boar's ears, it was like a demon's whisper. Just as it was about to escape back to the familiar warmth of the forest, it heard the terrible voice behind it. Before you go, please fill up this hole. Humph. Humph. The giant boar hummed a few times and began to fill up the hole. On the side, Asma couldn't help but be speechless. I was thinking about how to make it understand our words. It seems that violence is the best way to communicate. Kurenai turned to look at him. Why do you sound like you have a lot of feelings? Asma waved his hand. I didn't know that smoking is harmful to health, but after being caught by the old man, I understood. Kurenai's mouth twitched. I always feel that the health you speak of is not the same as the health people speak of. On the other side, Garashi clapped his hands. Well, the mission to expel the beast is completed. Asma said excitedly, this time, it's my turn to choose the mission. For Garashi and the other two, even a sea-level mission was not difficult at all. In the past 5 months, they have completed 97 sea-level missions. If it weren't for the fact that they were interspersed with some relatively long escort and investigation missions, the number would have been even higher. Even for the B-level missions, they have completed 3 of them with their Yamanaka-sensei's identity. Just as they were discussing using their accumulated contribution points to exchange for a B-level ninjutsu, an inverted straight monster came to them. Garashi-sensei, good morning. Do you want to walk with me? Bushy Eyebrows asked with one hand upside down and the other hand giving a thumbs up. No, we still have to go turn in the mission. Garashi firmly refused. Although he didn't have the burden of being an idol, he didn't want his image to be destroyed. You've completed another mission. Metkai's voice was full of envy and immediately refreshed. I still have a long way to go. In order to reward myself for recognizing reality, I'll add 2,000 push-ups this morning. Asma's eyes widened. Are you sure this is a reward for yourself? Of course, this is hot-blooded youth. Metkai raised his shining mouth and suddenly remembered something. By the way, Sensei, Yamanaka-sensei, Jonin seems to be looking for you. Is there another mission? The 3 of them looked at each other, suddenly excited. Naruto's office. Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-senseis, Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-Yamanaka, Yamanaka-sensei. Difficult task. Asuma's eyes lit up and immediately cheered. Old man, cough, Hokage-sama is great. Don't be happy too early, this mission is not so easy to complete. Sandaime took out his smoking gun and introduced, you need to escort a batch of emergency supplies to the grass country. If you proceed normally, the mission level is B. Sandaime's voice paused, and his eyes suddenly became serious. But if there are changes, the mission is likely to be upgraded to A. Hearing this, everyone's breathing quickened. A. Under normal circumstances, only a Jonin is qualified to take on an A-level mission. Even Yamanaka frowned. Naruto, Sama, although the 3 of them are geniuses, it's too early to take on such a dangerous mission. I know, so I specifically asked you to come here today to ask for your opinion. Sandaime raised the brim of his hat. You don't have to rush to give me an answer, first listen to me in detail. The grass country is our ally, and at the same time, it is located on the border between the fire country and the earth country. Its geographical location is particularly important. The 4 listened carefully, and they all understood that the so-called ally was just an official term on the surface. The real situation was actually a subordinate country under the control of Woodleaf. But recently, there have been some subtle changes in the commission from the grass country. At the same time, they have ordered a lot more military supplies from Woodleaf than usual. Yamanaka's eyes were dignified. Military supplies? Explosive charms, kunai, shurikens, military food pills, and so on. According to them, it's to deal with the increasingly rampant bandits and rebellious ninjas in the grass country. Sandaime nodded slightly, and immediately showed a worried look. If it's really to deal with bandits and rebellious ninjas, it's okay, but I'm afraid that these supplies will eventually flow to another place. Yamanaka asked, are you worried that the rock crypsis is behind this? Sandaime sighed. If the grass country really falls to the rock crypsis, once a war breaks out, Woodleaf will be in a very passive situation. However, there is no actual evidence to prove all this, so your hidden mission is to inquire about information. Yamanaka frowned. If the grass country really falls to the rock crypsis, then this mission is too dangerous. Sandaime shook his head. Of course there will be danger, but it's not as serious as you think. Inoki has always been insidious and forbearing. With his character, he will only hide behind the scenes and reap the benefits. It's absolutely impossible for him to take the initiative to ignite a war. I understand all this, but... Yamanaka asked in a deep voice, why them? Because they are all geniuses, and Asma is even my son. Sandame's face was rarely cold, only by letting them go, Rock Cripsis won't be suspicious. Yamanaka couldn't refute, because he also knew that such a decision was the right one. Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry. Asma himself was full of confidence. It's just to inquire about information, nothing will happen. Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes twitched wildly. Because of what you said, I'm even more worried. Garashi said, in fact, Naruto asked us to accept the mission because of the Flying Thunder God. It's because the previous missions were too easy. I've never used the Flying Thunder God in an official mission. Not many people know that I can use the Flying Thunder God, so Rock Cripsis shouldn't be able to get this information. In other words, if the situation develops to a point of no return, we can use the Flying Thunder God technique to quickly escape. Sandame nodded slowly. He narrowed his eyes and asked, tell me your final answer. Do you want to accept this mission? Seeing all three of them looking at him with firm eyes, Yamanaka Inoichi could only smile bitterly. We'll take this task. Chapter 80. 3 days later, early in the morning. At the door of the mission center. Yamanaka Inoichi reminded with a serious face, check to see if all the necessary supplies are complete. Explosive charms, flash grenades, shurikens, blood-boosting pills, soldier food pills. Shushi checked his toolkit without hesitation. Asuma, who was listening from the side, was stunned. Why did you bring so many things, Shushi? Also, why did you bring blood-increasing pill as a medical ninja? Garashi shook his head gently, it's better to be prepared. Who can guarantee that these things won't be used in battle? Also, even if I'm a medical ninja, there will always be a time when I run out of chakra, or it's too late to make hand seals. That seems to be the case. Asma clapped his hands, wait for me, I'll go buy it now. No need, I brought 2 more. Garashi stopped him and took out a small bottle and handed it over. Haha. Garashi, you know me best. Asma didn't feel awkward at all and took it. Garashi smiled helplessly and then looked at Kurenai. Kurenai, what about you? Kurenai put her hands behind her back. Hee, I'm not as reckless as Asma. Garashi still sent the small bottle over. I made this myself, and the effect should be slightly better than the average blood-increasing pill. Then, I'll take it too. Kurenai happily accepted it and then took out a small cloth bag and handed it to Garashi. Garashi, this is also the soldier food pill I made myself. Thank you, it seems that I'm lucky in this mission. Seeing Garashi accept the soldier food pill she made, Kurenai was happy, and then she saw a palm open to her. What's wrong? Soldier food pill. Kurenai's mouth twitched slightly. Why do you think you have it too? Asma was distressed. Garashi made 2 for us. How can you only make 1? Hong rolled her eyes at him. What about you? Have you made anything for us? Asma froze and asked weakly, are the cigarettes that I made myself okay? Ha! Golden binding technique. Garashi, save me. Looking at the fight between the disciples, Yamanaka Inoichi's mouth also showed a smile. It's good to be young. At this moment, a somewhat stout merchant ran towards them. Are you the ninjas who are escorting us back to the land of grass? I'm really sorry for making everyone wait. We actually just arrived. That's good, that's good. The stout merchant nodded again and again, looking very friendly. I am Shigeru Kitahara. Thank you for your hard work over the next few days. Yamanaka Inoichi replied, you are too polite. This is what we should do. Our caravan has already gathered at the gate of the village. I'll go and arrange it first. When you are ready, you can leave at any time. After that, he ran in the direction he came from. When he left, Asma whispered, this time the employer is really easy to talk to. I feel that he is a little afraid of us. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. Of course, he has to be polite. After all, ninjas killing their employers is not unheard of. Let's go, don't let our employer wait too long. Counting the caravan's own guards, there were more than 50 people. Such a number was enough to make some mountain bandits flinch. At least in the land of fire, the caravan was unimpeded all the way. But on the third day, after entering the land of grass, in just a few kilometers of travel, they encountered 3 waves of bandits. Especially the third wave, even ninjas appeared. Looking at the battle ahead, Kitahara Shigeru's hands and feet trembled a little. Carefully weighing his words, he asked, Yamanaka Jonin, this time there seems to be ninjas among the bandits. Isn't it inappropriate to let those little ninjas deal with it alone? Yamanaka Inoichi smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Kitahara-sama, you may have some misunderstandings about the strength of Woodleaf Genin. Don't worry, just watch quietly. In the field, Garashi and the other 2 were cutting the grass. Although there were ninjas among the enemies, and there were warriors like the Land of Iron who could use chakra, the ninjas of the 5 major countries and the ninjas of the small countries were not the same concept. Not to mention, Garashi and the other 2 were absolute geniuses among the 5 major countries' ninjas. In just a short while, the enemy died out amidst howls of despair. These bandits are too weak. I only used a great fireball to scare them. Asuma grumbled, not enjoying himself to the fullest. Yes, I feel like throwing a few shurikens can drive them away. Kurenai nodded. Garashi shook his head helplessly. The enemies are already dead, let's leave them some dignity. In the caravan, Kitahara Shigeru and the others widened their eyes. Too powerful, is this the power of Woodleaf Genin? Why do I feel that the Chunin of Kyuzugakur is not necessarily as powerful as them? The Chunin who escorted us was injured halfway and died shortly after reaching the land of fire. The previous 2 waves of bandits weren't too many, so they couldn't see anything. However, the group of enemies earlier was already considered a famous bandit in the grass country. Even so, they were still defeated by the 3 children as if they were vegetables. As a caravan, they have seen ninjas before, but those ninjas in their impression didn't seem to have this kind of strength at all. Thinking of this, everyone became more enthusiastic. After going on the road again, the tense atmosphere in the caravan became much more relaxed. On the side, Asuma was a little depressed. There are too many bandits in the land of grass. Now I wonder if the old man's judgment is wrong. Yamanaka Inoichi laughed. If their arms and supplies are really bought to deal with the bandits, then we don't have to worry. Yes, the most important thing is that the village is not threatened. Asuma also gave up the idea of upgrading the mission and smiled, but it would be better if we could meet some bandits with Chunin. That kind of large-scale bandits is not so easy to meet. Just as Yamanaka Inoichi was explaining, Shushi suddenly said, more robbers are coming, and there are more of them than before. Asuma said excitedly, there really are. Yamanaka Inoichi looked weird. I shouldn't have awakened any strange attributes, right? At this time, everyone also saw the situation in front of them. A large group of ferocious-looking bandits were chasing after a delicate-looking youth. Looking at the forehead protector on the boy's head, he seemed to be a ninja from Kyuzugakur. The boy also noticed the situation here and quickly changed his direction while shouting, you run, don't worry about me. However, the bandits stopped chasing for a while. This kid seems to have helped us find a group of fat sheep. Eat meat first, revenge next time. In the trembling caravan, Garashi and the other 2 looked at each other and exchanged glances. Why do I feel like you've said this before, Garashi? Chapter 81. Seeing that the bandits were no longer chasing him, the Kyuzugakur boy turned back. You scum, don't drag unrelated people into this. The bandit leader sneered, little ninja, don't think too highly of yourself. For us, hatred is never the first thing. The Kyuzugakur boy shouted angrily, damn it, I will throw you all in prison. Seeing this situation, the bandits laughed and ridiculed him. Prison? We are so scared. Don't laugh, do you think you will have a future? In the caravan, Kurenai whispered, "These developments seem to be the same as the stories you told before, Garashi." Garashi narrowed his eyes. "It's still a little different, at least, these bandits don't seem to be acting." Asma was also nervous. "Have we been discovered? Are there rock Crypsis ninjas lying in ambush around?" Garashi shook his head slightly. "It should be a routine test, otherwise, it won't be these bandits." Asma nodded and asked, "What should we do?" "Let's just follow the normal development." Garashi paused and added, "Rock Crypsis is likely to know our information, so don't deliberately hide your strength." "Of course, I'm talking about the strength you usually show." "Understood." On the other side, the bandits seemed to be beginning to get impatient. "Enough said, let's send them to hell. These caravans didn't cry and beg for mercy, it's really strange." The Kizagakure boy rushed up angrily. "Damn it, I won't let you do this." Fire release, heavenly prison flame sword. Seeing the other party waving a flame sword, the bandits suddenly scattered and fled. "Be careful of his flame." "What about the archers?" "Shoot." Asma was a little surprised. "This Kizagakure ninja is quite powerful, so are we going to fight?" "Let's start." Fire release, great fireball technique. Magic, Fox's mind, X2. Although it was only a C-class ninjutsu, under the skillful cooperation of Garashi and the other two, the bandits didn't have time to react and nearly half of them were killed. To be able to use such a powerful ninjutsu so quickly, is there a jonin among the enemy? The bandit exclaimed in horror. Asma, who was in the middle of making hand seals, was stunned. Fireball jutsu is considered a powerful ninjutsu? Are these bastards mocking me? Thinking of this, his hand seals sped up. Seeing that these bandits were either swallowed by the flames or fell down like they lost their souls, the Kizagakure boy also showed a trace of shock in his eyes. So powerful, their jonin didn't even make a move. "I'm already considered the most powerful genius in Kusanagi, but Wood Leaf's 3 people are no weaker than me. Is this the strength of the great country?" Trying to suppress the complicated thoughts in his mind, he also rushed up and joined the mowing team. At night, the bonfire crackled. "I'm really sorry for the trouble," the Kizagakure boy said with embarrassment. "My name is Wue, I'm a genin of Kizagakure." Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. "My name is Yamanaka Inoichi, and these 3 are my disciples, Shimizu Garashi, Kurenai, and Asma. They are all genin like you." Wue was amazed and said enviously, "You guys are really powerful. I'm a few years older than you, but I'm only a genin." "Aha, it's just a so-so." Asma, who was reminded, said, "By the way, Wue-san, where are your companions?" Wue shook his head with a wry smile. "The number of ninjas in Kizagakure is limited, and we can't team up like you." "Is it so difficult?" Asma touched his head, inexplicably feeling like he was in the countryside. Garashi asked, "Wue-san, why are those bandits chasing you?" "I seem to have heard them mention hatred." Hearing Garashi mention this issue, Wue became a little lonely. "Most of them were once prisoners of the Ghost Light Castle, and my clan was the prison guard who supervised them." "Ghost Light Castle?" Kurenai was a little confused. "Is this the prison of your Kizagakure?" Wue's face was slightly gloomy. "This kind of thing, you people of the 5 major countries don't know?" Yamanaka Inoichi explained, "Ghost Light Castle was built by the Kizagakure village, and it was a prison for ninjas who committed crimes." "Then why did you entrust Kizagakure?" Asma understood halfway. This kind of dangerous prison, of course, can't be placed in the territory of a major country. After thinking it through, he awkwardly changed the topic and asked, "How did these people escape? Is it because of the war?" Garashi sighed softly. His voice was gentle and soft, as if it could trigger the most painful memories in people's hearts. "Yes. It's because of the war." Wue's handsome face became distorted. "The war spread to Ghost Light Castle, part of the prison was destroyed, and the prisoners killed the prison guards and escaped." Yamanaka Inoichi thought with a dignified face, "Their clan's fire release can imprison the enemy's chakra. It's reasonable to say that even if some of the prisoners escaped, it's impossible to kill the prison guards, unless the prison guards who imposed the restraints on those prisoners happen to be affected by the war, or there are other ninjas involved. Isn't it funny? He was supposed to be a prison guard for those big countries, but he was casually abandoned by them. Even a dog wouldn't. Halfway through his sentence, Wu Wei suddenly realized something. Wait, what's wrong with me? How did I become so irrational? Was it stimulated by their talent? Noticing the complex expressions on their faces, Wu Wei quickly shook his head with a bitter smile, making a painful and confused gesture. Sorry, I lost my mind a little. However, we can only accept things that are forced upon us without even knowing the reason. Then, we have to continue living without even knowing the reason. Perhaps this is the fate of creatures like us. Fate? Believing in this kind of thing will only make you weak. Garashi's tone was firm and powerful. I always believed that we were born to change the world. Oh, is that so? Wu Wei reluctantly squeezed out a smile and said with some sarcasm, as expected of a ninja from Woodleaf, you can easily say things that people like us who live in the gutter can't even think about. I will say this because I have also wandered in the darkness. What did you say? When I was 3 years old, the war destroyed everything I once had. I understand the pain and despair, but I also know that if I become dispirited and depressed because of it, my family, who became stars, will cry because of it. Shushi was lost in his own thoughts as he reminisced about the past. When I was 3 years old, the war destroyed everything I had. I understand the pain and despair. Even if I live in the gutter, I still have the right to look up at the stars. Wu Wei's eyes were shocked, and he muttered to himself, look up at the stars? Can people like us really do it? Chapter 82. At night, insects and birds were quiet. Wu Wei slept on the ground, but he couldn't fall asleep. Fake, fake, it's all fake. What starry sky? It's simply an unrealistic fantasy. Personal fate may be changed, but the future of the grass country has long been doomed. No matter how hard we try, we can only struggle to survive in the cracks of the big countries. But, is it really useless? If I can become a strong man like Hanzo of the Rain Country, maybe I can protect the village. Impossible, my talent may be the strongest in the grass village, but any 3 of Woodleaf's genin are not weaker than me. It's impossible for me to become that kind of strong man with such ordinary talent. What should I do? Wu Wei's eyes were confused, looking at the boundless starry sky and talking to himself. Father, if it's you. On the other side, Garashi was resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. Don't be nervous, I'm Yamanaka Inoichi, and now I'm using the Yamanaka clan's secret technique to communicate with you. Long story short, that Wu Wei seems to be hiding part of his strength. Considering this, he is likely to be an undercover of the rock Crypsis. Silence, 1 second, 2 seconds, Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but ask, why don't you talk? By the way, you can talk as long as you think it in your heart. Asma couldn't hold it anymore, and after knowing the method, he quickly said, haha. I already knew he was undercover. Yamanaka Inoichi was stunned, already knew? He was only able to judge based on his rich experience. Since when did Asuma have such a keen eye? Asuma chuckled. It's not just me. Even Shushi and Red know about it. Yamanaka Inoichi's body outside his spiritual consciousness couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, so, except for him who didn't know he was exposed, all of us knew, and we were all cooperating with him. At this moment, he inexplicably felt that the boy named Wu Wei was a little pitiful. Asuma laughed. Who asked him to treat us like fools and fool us? However, Garashi is still the most overboard, tricking him into a daze. Garashi sighed softly. As long as it's a lie, it will be exposed one day. So, I didn't lie to him. However, the truth was sometimes more deceptive than a lie. Red said worriedly, Garashi, then you, Garashi said, don't worry about it. It's because I've wandered around in confusion that I cherish the present even more. I also hope that Senior Wu Wei can walk out of the past. Asma muttered, you're too kind. how can you treat a spy like this? Garashi chuckled. We still don't know what's going on in the grass country, so there's no need to reject a force that can be recruited. Asma exclaimed, wait, even the spies have come out. Could it be that the grass nation hasn't been corrupted yet? Yamanaka Inoichi said, first of all, we can't rule out that Rock Crypsis deliberately created the illusion that Kusanagi is controlled by them. Secondly, it's also possible that some of Kusanagi's forces have turned to Rock Crypsis. If we rush to make a judgment, it's likely that we'll push the forces that were originally leaning toward Woodleaf to the enemy. So, our main task is still to inquire about intelligence. I see. Yamanaka Inoichi added, also, Garashi, you can try to get information from the boy named Wu Wei, but be careful. Garashi said, I know what to do. 2 days later, the group finally arrived at Kusanagi village. Unlike what Garashi and others thought at first, Kusanagi village was not desolate, and it even had a sense of prosperity. This change surprised several people. There are so many bandits and robbers in the grass country. Why does Kusanagi village look so harmonious? Asma asked while touching his head. Because those big people don't care about the life and death of ordinary people at all. Wu Wei sneered, the only thing they will do is to use the interests of the grass country to please other countries around them and use so-called diplomatic means to maintain their own rule. After that, he shook his head again, sorry, I was a little angry. By the way, since you have arrived at Kusanagi village, let's separate here. They didn't ask him to stay, but asked, Wu Wei, senpai, where is your home? We want to invite you to dinner before we leave. You saved me, I should be the one to invite you. Wu Wei said with a smile, as for accommodation, I actually don't have a place to live yet. After all, Goryu Castle is on a nearby island. If you want to find me, you can go to the hostel in the north of the village. I should rest there. Then we'll go to hand in the task first, goodbye Wu Wei, senpai. When the caravan left, Wu Wei put away the smile on his face, they don't even know Goryu Castle. It seems that they didn't come for that matter. Under the leadership of Kitahara Shigeru, Garashi and the others came to an extremely luxurious mansion. Yamanaka Jonin, the one who ordered this batch of materials from Woodleaf, is the Minister of Finance of our grass country. In order to avoid the covetous eyes of those bandits, we had to use the name of a caravan. Yamanaka Inoichi wasn't surprised, this was something that had been explained before accepting the task. Walking into the mansion, a middle-aged man with a pair of bright eyes was already waiting. Friends from Woodleaf, it's been hard on you. The middle-aged man invited them into the living room with great enthusiasm. I'm the Minister of Finance of the grass country, Ueno Shin, and the initiator of this commission. As soon as he came up, he began to pour out his grievances. Our grass country is suffering, we're really suffering. After explaining how hard the people, ninjas, and officials of the grass country were suffering, he changed the topic and mentioned the deep friendship between Woodleaf and the grass country. Finally, he raised the topic with tears, for the peace of the shinobi world, for the friendship between the two countries, I'm here to ask Woodleaf to help us with another batch of materials. Asma looked at him with admiration. Arms and materials are extremely important strategic resource reserves. It's good enough to sell them to you, but this time you're planning to get them for free? Yamanaka Inoichi tapped the table lightly, I will tell Naruto-sama about your request. However, I have a proposal. Ueno Shin smiled brightly, please say. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled, why don't you directly entrust Woodleaf's ninja to clean up the bandits? This way, not only do you not have to worry about the materials being robbed, but you can also ensure the safety of your ninja. Ueno Shin's smile froze, and the next moment, he sighed, no, after all, this is our grass country's internal affairs. If we ask Woodleaf's ninja to do it, it may be misunderstood by our people. It doesn't matter if we're scolded, but how can we let our allies bear a bad reputation? Yamanaka Inoichi didn't insist, is that so? It seems that I didn't think about it. Ueno Shin smiled brightly, haha, Yamanaka Jonin is also thinking about us. Yamanaka Inoichi looked outside the door, it seems that it's getting late. Let's go back to Woodleaf early, at this time, Asuma shouted according to the previous discussion, Yamanaka-sensei, let's go back to Woodleaf tomorrow. It's rare to come out, it's a pity to go back like this. Seeing that Yamanaka and Noichi was a little embarrassed, Ueno Shin also persuaded, this little ninja is very reasonable. It's rare to come out, let's experience our grass country style. As he said that, he had already arranged, although my place is a bit simple, it's not a problem for a few more guests. Yamanaka Jonin, you guys can stay here for the night. Chapter 83. Looking at the magnificent decoration in the room, Asuma couldn't help but complain, this is really simple. My house is not so simple. Hongshin nodded in agreement, he also said that he was hard, I also want to be as hard as him. At this time, Yamanaka and Noichi in the next room created an online chat room again. You all be careful, this Ueno Shin is likely to have a problem. Asuma agreed, I think so too. Thinking that Asuma and the others had seen Wuei's concealment before, Yamanaka and Noichi couldn't help but examine, how did you see it? Speaking of this, Asuma suddenly became excited. First of all, when he talked about how hard he was, he shook his head, which probably means that he didn't believe it himself. Secondly, when he explained why it didn't work, his body language and eyes were very uncoordinated, and several times they pointed in the opposite direction. By the way, he came up with a long speech and led the topic to materials. It's likely that he was worried that we would ask something difficult to answer, so he deliberately took the right to speak in his own hands. After talking for about 10 minutes, he added reluctantly, of course, these analyses don't count. They can only be used as a reference. Yamanaka and Noichi was stunned and took a long time to recover. Did Naruto-sama teach you these things? It's Garashi. Seeing that the teacher was shocked, Asuma felt refreshed. Didn't he build a psychology club? Then he shared some small details of his usual observations with us. Although it can't be said to be completely accurate, many times he can guess other people's thoughts. Yamanaka and Noichi felt that 10,000 mythological beasts were rushing through his heart. How could he feel that the valuable experience he had summed up in missions wasn't as thorough as Garashi's observation? He also knew about those clubs, but he never cared about them and only thought of them as children playing house. But now, he really wanted to ask, is the club still recruiting? Thinking of this, Yamanaka and Noichi coughed twice and said, your analysis is very good, but I'm worried that your observation is still incomplete. After you go back, you can tell me more about the content in detail, and I will give you professional guidance from the perspective of an intelligence ninja. Red asked suspiciously, really? Why would I lie to you? Yamanaka and Noichi said and quickly changed the topic, ahem, there's only one day. We can't delay any longer. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. You guys go out with the excuse of going shopping. Garashi, follow that Wuei. Asuma and Kurenai, you two go to the mission center of Kusanagi village. I'll talk to Shin Ueno and see if I can get anything out of him. But no matter what, you have to gather here before 6 p.m., understood? Understood. Then, let's begin. At the same time, at the North Street Hostel. Wuei, tell me the information you have gathered. A short but muscular man stood in front of Wuei and said. Yes, Yangdo-sama. Wuei stood straight. According to my observations in the past 2 days, they didn't have any abnormal reaction, but they were amazed by the number of bandits in the Kusanagi village. As for Enigmo Castle, only that Jonin has some impression of it. Oh, it seems that Woodleaf is getting more and more dull. Yang Do sneered and then nodded slowly, but it's also true that if Woodleaf really noticed our actions, they wouldn't have sent them to escort the supplies. Hearing Yang Do's words, Wuei's eyes flashed, that Woodleaf Jonin hasn't made a move, and I can't judge his strength. However, the strength of those 3 Woodleaf Jonins doesn't seem to be weaker than me. Not weaker than you? Yang Do-ji smiled and said, those 3 people, even among the genin of the Rock Village, it's hard to find anyone stronger than them. As a jonin of Rock Crypsis, he actually doesn't think highly of these ninjas of small countries. And Woodleaf, one of the 5 great ninja villages, he can ridicule them, but a mere Kusanagi is thinking too highly of themselves. Wu Wei clenched his fists slightly, but his face still looked amazed. Are the three of them very powerful? Yang Dou's eyes became serious. According to the information, the little girl should be the weakest one, but even so, her genjutsu is close to the level of a chunin. After all, her father is the strongest genjutsu master in Woodleaf. As for that Asma, he is the son of Sandame Naruto. What? Sandame Naruto's son? Wu Wei couldn't believe that the guy who didn't look too smart was Naruto's son. Well, this alone is enough to show his strength. However, compared with Shimizu Garashi, the two of them are nothing. Wu Wei was shocked. Is he the son of first Naruto? Well, the timing doesn't seem to match. He doesn't have any special identity. In fact, he was originally just an unremarkable orphan left behind by the war. Wu Wei was in a trance. Shimizu Garashi seemed to have told him this before. Yang Dou looked dignified, but his talent is too terrifying. He developed an A-level ninjutsu at the age of 6. 6 years old. A-level ninjutsu. Wu Wei swallowed hard. He felt powerless. Is this a real genius? The entire Kusanagi village may not have an A-level ninjutsu, but someone else can develop it at the age of 6. This gap made him completely lose the confidence to compete. Yang Dou seemed to see the ambition in Wu Wei's eyes. He took the opportunity to beat him. Do you understand the gap between you? A small shinobi village should have the awareness of a small shinobi village. Wu Wei's face turned blue and red. He finally lowered his head. I'm too shallow, but... Since they are all geniuses, should we eliminate the threat now? Yang Dou was a little moved, but in the end, he refused. The growth of a genius also takes time. Moreover, Woodleaf's enemies are not just us. If we leave them here, it will only lead to Woodleaf's crazy revenge, and then the other 3 shinobi villages will take advantage of it. Wu Wei also woke up. Rock Crypsis doesn't want to eliminate the threat in advance, but the problem is that the time is too sensitive. Once the war starts in advance, it will only let the other 3 shinobi villages take advantage of it. This is not in the interest of Rock Crypsis. Yang Dou was a little impatient. He said, in short, you don't have to worry about the next thing, just do your own thing and continue to attract the bandits for us. About Enigimo Castle. Wu Wei lowered his head halfway. Yes, I understand. Chapter 84. Yang Dou knew that this little ninja from Kusanagi village had other ideas, but he didn't care. The powerful Rock Crypsis wasn't something that a weak Kusanagi village could spy on. So, seeing that Wu Wei agreed, he also nodded with satisfaction. Don't be impatient, there will be a day when you get your revenge. With that, he turned around and left the room. Revenge? Wu Wei's eyes were full of sarcasm, but he didn't do anything else. He just sat quietly on the chair. No one knew what he was thinking. Almost 2 hours later, there was a sudden movement outside the window. Wu Wei quietly opened the window. A pigeon was standing by the window, combing its feathers. After seeing Wu Wei, the pigeon spat out a small paper tube hidden in its beak. Although it was a little troublesome, the risk of being found tied to his leg was undoubtedly greater. Wu Wei picked up the paper tube, opened it as fast as he could, and then carefully wrote on the back, and then put the small paper tube back into the pigeon's beak. The whole process took less than a minute. Seeing that no one found it, Wu Wei was relieved, and his eyes were slightly crazy. Oh. This is revenge. After doing all this, he finally sat back on the bed leisurely and began today's practice. A few minutes later, just as Wu Wei's restless heart gradually calmed down, a greeting suddenly woke him up. Wu Wei, senpai, we meet again. Wu Wei opened his eyes and saw Garashi sitting on the chair with a smile. When did he? Wu Wei's mind flashed many thoughts, and then he jumped out of bed with a smile. Garashi, why are you here? Where are Asma and the others? Garashi smiled. I'm alone, because I have something to ask senpai for help. Hearing that Garashi was alone, Wu Wei relaxed a little. As long as I can do it, there is absolutely no problem. That's great. Garashi smiled as he took out a small paper tube. Actually, I want to ask Senior to help me translate these codes. The smile on Wu Wei's face suddenly froze, but he reacted in the next moment. Shouldn't you go to the signal team for this kind of thing? I think it would be faster to find the person directly. The person involved? I was too careless. Garashi smiled and said, then can I trouble you to explain? Mr. Undercover. Wu Wei stopped smiling and looked around. Is this a sound ceiling enchantment? That's really cautious. Garashi shrugged helplessly. We have to be prepared in advance. But you were still careless. Wu Wei smirked. You probably didn't expect this, but everyone in this hostel is from Rock Crypsis. I know. You know. Wu Wei's confident tone faltered, and he looked at Shueisha in surprise. Then, do you know that I can rush out of the room if I take a few steps forward? Although it may be rude to say this, but... Garashi's tone was gentle as he looked at him with a smile. In front of me, you won't have any room to resist. Wu Wei's heart suddenly surged with anger. Although he now knows that his talent may be far inferior to Garashi, he is also a genius of Kusanagi, and he has been practicing for a few years more than Garashi. If it weren't for hiding his strength, he would have been promoted to Chunin. No matter how bad it is, it's impossible that he can't even rush out of the room. Then let's try, boom. Before his voice fell, he knelt on the floor powerlessly. Then, like a wooden doll, he was manipulated to sit in front of Garashi. How is it possible? I didn't even take a step out. This kind of printing speed, this kind of illusion I can't resist. Although his body was controlled and he couldn't speak, Wu Wei's eyes were full of shock. He thought that he had overestimated his opponent enough, and from the beginning, he only wanted to escape a few steps away. But now it seems that not only he underestimated his opponent, but even Yang Do underestimated him. This is not a genius who hasn't grown up, but a monster in sheep's clothing. Now that I've exposed my strength, will I be killed? Wu Wei thought in his heart, but he wasn't afraid. Instead, he felt a kind of perverted pleasure. Yang Do, if you know what you are letting go of, you will regret the decision you made today. With a snap of his fingers, Wu Wei regained control of his body. Garashi shook the small paper tube and asked, Wu Wei, senpai, can you tell me what this code is now? Wu Wei rubbed the place where he just fell and said with a cold face, if I don't even have the awareness of death, I won't be a ninja. Just kill me, I won't say anything. Garashi wasn't angry, he just tapped his fingers on the table. Wu Wei, senpai, do you know the Woodleaf Yamanaka clan? Hearing Garashi mention the Yamanaka clan, Wu Wei's face changed slightly. It seems that you know. Seeing the other party's reaction, Garashi nodded slightly. Unfortunately, Yamanaka senpai is an excellent jonin of this clan. And I can use genjutsu to control you to find Yamanaka senpai. This way, in the eyes of the Rock Crypsis, you are betraying them again. How do you think those furious Rock Crypsis ninjas will deal with Kusanagi and your people? Wu Wei clenched his hands angrily, too despicable. Garashi said lightly, for a ninja, despicable is not a powerful condemnation. Wu Wei helplessly lowered his head. Indeed, ninja wasn't a bright profession, and his own means were completely different from the light. Just as he was about to say the answer, he heard Garashi laugh out loud. What are you laughing at? Wu Wei asked with a dark face. Are you scared? Garashi laughed for a while, then immediately put on a serious face. I said this just to let you know that everything you do can be reflected on others. Wu Wei's face was complicated. Don't you want to know the answer? Garashi knew that the other party's psychological defense had a flaw. Of course I want to know, but I won't use this method to deepen the hatred. Besides, don't you still have the seal? Yu Shangrong smiled. Don't you have the seal? Seal? Wu Wei was stunned, and the part of the memory that was ignored in his mind suddenly returned, and then, he looked at Garashi with gritted teeth. You just unlocked a part of the genjutsu. Knowing so many secrets, Rock Crypsis will certainly put a seal on him. In other words, even if he was controlled to appear in front of Yamanaka and Noichi, Rock Crypsis will not suspect him of betrayal. They will only think that he is being held hostage. Thinking of this, Wu Wei's face was very ugly. You did this just to tease me? Garashi slowly shook his head. No, I wanted to see your heart clearly. Heart? Wu Wei was a little confused, but he was too lazy to think more. With the seal, I can't tell you the answer, you can do it now. Chapter 85. Garashi just shook his head. Sometimes, the seal can't solve everything. Wu Wei was puzzled. What do you mean? Garashi continued his analysis. The hostel is obviously filled with people from Rock Crypsis, but you used a secret signal to communicate with people outside. It seems that your identity as a spy must be very complicated, right? Wu Wei now understood Garashi's plan. He wanted to deduce the meaning of the secret signal himself. While he was shocked, he could not help but refute, this doesn't mean anything. Maybe the hostel's owner is not here and we have to communicate through birds. Garashi shook his head slightly. When I sneaked in, I eavesdropped. The owner of this hostel is called Black Light. Maybe it's a fake name, but he left more than an hour ago, and you checked in 2 hours ago. Wu Wei's lips opened slightly, but he did not speak. Due to the restriction of the seal, he could not say or write down the secret of the spellcaster. However, this level of reaction was enough. Which village did the second person contact you from? Garashi tilted his head. I'm guessing it's still Rock Crypsis. Wu Wei's pupils contracted violently, his eyes filled with shock. Seeing Wu Wei's reaction, Garashi could not help but laugh. It seems that I guessed right. Wu Wei waved his arms vigorously. This doesn't make sense at all. How can you guess like this? Because when I used the illusion to control you just now, I tried to see if I could bypass the seal. I didn't have much hope at first, but the final result surprised me. Garashi rubbed his chin. Without considering the protection of your brain, I can completely break the seal. Perhaps it was because of Garashi's previous display of strength. Wu Wei did not doubt this. He only asked with a complicated expression, then why didn't you do that? The life or death of a spy has no impact on you. Garashi's eyes were calm. Because I saw the desire in your eyes, the desire for the future and change. Wu Wei's mind was shaken, and his thoughts became chaotic. Garashi continued, it's precisely because this seal is too simple that it makes me suspicious. Since you're not good at sealing, why don't you let the sealing class do it? Wu Wei had a strange look on his face. Although the person who put the seal on him was not good at sealing, that person was still a jonin. How could it become so simple in Garashi's words? Garashi didn't care too much about Wu Wei's strange look. After all, the person who taught him the sealing technique didn't even care about Naruto's seal. After a short pause, Garashi continued, the best reason is that he didn't dare to contact the village's sealing class. That's why I'm guessing that he's a member of Rock Crypsis. He might even be the leader of this operation. The shock in Wu Wei's eyes can no longer be described with words. Just based on the information collected in a few minutes, the other party could speculate to this extent. Compared with Garashi, he suspected that he wasn't suitable to be a ninja at all. Garashi wasn't satisfied with this and continued to analyze. Being able to lead so many ninjas to carry out the mission shows that the person should be a very trusted senior member of Rock Crypsis. Even such a person has other ideas, ordinary temptation won't work. And according to my inquiries these days, perhaps only the legend of Ghost Lantern City has this kind of temptation. Wu Wei couldn't help but ask, wait, I've been paying attention to you these days. How come I didn't know that you asked about Ghost Lantern City? Shushi smiled and waved his hand. Your reaction that day was too abnormal. That's why I decided to ask around for information. As for you, is it that difficult for me to avoid you when I know you're a spy? Wu Wei stared, you already knew that I was a spy. Shushi corrected him. To be precise, all of us knew about it on the first day. I'm really not suitable to be a ninja. Wu Wei lowered his head and closed his eyes. The box of bliss that can fulfill people's wishes, only this kind of thing can make a Rock Crypsis jounin have ideas that shouldn't be. And the reason why you're willing to work for him should be to split Rock Crypsis. I really can't hide anything from you. Wu Wei slowly raised his head, his eyes slightly crazy. Yes, whether it's rock crypsis or wood leaf, it's better to destroy them all. Since that's the mentality, it's not difficult to guess the code. Garashi nodded slightly. Although rock crypsis is actively preparing for war, they don't want to be the first to be involved in the war. If I were you, I naturally wouldn't want them to get what they want. I would probably hope that wood leaf and rock crypsis would be involved in the war ahead of time, and it would be best if the other 3 villages took advantage of the opportunity to destroy them. And what you can do is to arouse the desire of the tempted rock crypsis jounin and make him attack us. So, this code probably means that the more talented the person, the better the effect of the sacrifice to the box of bliss. After that, Garashi smiled and looked at Wu-wei. Wu-wei, senpai, did I guess correctly? Wu-wei looked at him in shock, a trace of inexplicable fear in his heart. Although he was shocked by Garashi's strength before, deep down, he was still somewhat dismissive. Isn't it just talent? If he had that kind of talent, he could do it too. But now, he didn't have such thoughts at all. Talent, strength, temperament, intelligence, no matter which aspect, he is strong enough to make people afraid. In this world, is there really such a perfect person like him? Wu-wei couldn't help but think, if he was a Kusanagi, maybe all of this could really be changed. Shaking his head, Wu-wei closed his eyes. Since you have already guessed it, then I am useless, just kill me. Garashi shook his finger. Although senpai can't say anything about the rock crypsis jounin, but rock crypsis's other arrangements and infiltrated forces in the grass country should be able to say. Yes, but why should I tell you? Wu-wei's eyes were indifferent. Don't forget, I want wood leaf and rock crypsis to be destroyed. Garashi didn't get angry, he just looked straight into his eyes. But have you ever thought that once the war breaks out, the grass country will most likely become the battlefield again? You are dragging them into hell again. No, Kusanagi has no future. Wu-wei shouted, only by destroying wood leaf and rock crypsis together can they be resurrected in the ruins. No, you are wrong. Garashi shook his head slowly. There is still hope for Kusanagi. Don't tell me you want to talk about the box of bliss? Wu-wei sneered, that thing is simply a bottomless pit, it can't be filled. I never believe in illusory things like wishes, the hope I am talking about is. Garashi pointed to himself, me. Wu-wei stared at him, you? Garashi asked with a smile, what do you think of me? Wu-wei was silent for a moment. Even if I stand in the enemy's position, I have to admit that I have never seen anyone as powerful as you. Those arrogant rock crypsis, compared to you, they are not even sand. Garashi accepted the praise calmly. Then do you think it is possible for me to become Naruto? Wu-wei's eyes bloomed with brilliance, but immediately dimmed. Even Naruto can't influence the decision of rock crypsis. Then surpass Naruto. Garashi's words were full of strong confidence. Let those who don't understand what peace is hear our voice. Wu-wei's blood was faintly boiling. If it was this man, he could do it. A dreamer can only find his way under the moonlight. His punishment is to be the first to see the dawn. Garashi smiled and invited, so, do you want to try to see the dawn with me? Chapter 86. Wu-wei couldn't help but agree. I understand. Although I'm just an ordinary genin, I'll do my best. Don't underestimate yourself, you're not ordinary, and you can't be ordinary. Garashi smiled slightly. If you're too ordinary, how can you become the Kage of Kusagakure? Wu-wei's eyes were in a trance. Kage? Garashi nodded. Only when you become the Kage of Kusagakure can you reduce the resistance of what we want to do. Wu-wei's eyes burned with the flame of ambition. I will become the Kage, only then can I become your arm. That's a bit off topic. Garashi laughed. Let's talk about the arrangement of rock crypsis. Wu-wei tried to calm his excited heart and also laughed. If the rock village knew that the seal that was originally used to keep their secret was secretly changed by that person to keep his secret, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. It's a pity that I can't see their angry faces. Wu-wei sighed and said, in addition to that person, rock crypsis sent 1 jonin, 5 chunin, and 27 genin. As for the Kusagakure, I know that nearly half of the high-level officials have been infiltrated. They are the daimyo of the Kusagakure, the Minister of Finance. After listening to Wu-Wei's long list of names, Garashi's eyes narrowed. The situation is more serious than I thought. With that, Garashi cleared his residual aura, opened the window, and put the small paper tube back into the beak of the pigeon waiting outside. He used genjutsu to delete part of the pigeon's memory before sending it away. Wu-Wei was a little confused. That note is, Garashi calmly closed the window. Don't worry, I have my own plans. Hearing Garashi's words, Wu-Wei no longer asked. He now trusts Garashi almost unconditionally. Since Garashi said so, there will be no problem. In addition, I have something to ask you for help. The finance minister's residence. Seeing Garashi return, the three people who had been waiting here for a long time finally breathed a sigh of relief. Asma, who was thirsty, immediately shouted, "Let me tell you what Kurenai and I found first. The mission center has indeed changed. Most of the commissioned missions are more likely to be given to Rock Crypsis. I suspect that the upper echelons of Kyuzugakure may have been infiltrated." Yamanaka Inoichi's voice was heavy. In my communication with Shin Ueno, I also discovered a terrible fact. That is, the daimyo of Grass Country may have betrayed Wood Leaf. Garashi agreed. You're right. Other than the daimyo, there's also the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. After listening to Garashi's long list of names, they all fell silent. They didn't suspect anything. With Garashi's cautious and steady nature, he must have confirmed the answer. However, they were still puzzled. That's not right. We're just guessing. How come you already have an answer? Everyone is trying to get information. Why are you so outstanding? Kurenai whispered, "That's amazing. Garashi, you've got a lot more information than us." Garashi smiled and accepted the compliment. In addition to this, I also know the layout and strength of Rock Crypsis in Kyuzugakure. Asma screamed in horror. Garashi, what did you do to that Wu-Wei? Why did he even tell you this? Shushi said indifferently, because I instigated his rebellion. They were silent again. To be sent as an undercover by Rock Crypsis, it means that the other party should be very trusted. Even in the eyes of Rock Crypsis, it's impossible for him to betray them. How did Shushi manage to instigate a rebellion in just a few hours? As an intelligence ninja, Yamanaka Inoichi almost doubted his life. Was it so easy to get information? Then what was I doing in the past? Bastard. Asma asked blankly, then is our mission completed? Yamanaka Inoichi smiled bitterly. It should be. He originally wanted to let his disciples see how he completed the mission as a jonin so that they could also experience the joy of flying. But it's just the beginning. How did Garashi lead them all the way to the end? This kind of lying down winning position is too shameful. Then have a good rest tonight and go back tomorrow. Yamanaka-sensei, please wait. Garashi interrupted. Although the information of Rock Crypsis has been collected, I also found other information in the process. Kurenai asked in surprise. There is other information? Garashi's voice was heavy. Rock Crypsis placed 2 jonins in Kyuzugakure, and the jonin in charge of this operation seems to have some strange thoughts. Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes fluctuated slightly. Garashi, explain it in detail. Garashi said seriously. Simply put, there is a box of bliss that is said to be able to fulfill people's wishes. The Rock Crypsis jonin believed in this statement and tried to open the box of bliss by sacrificing the power of those prisoners. Of course, his statement to the Rock Crypsis is to control the prisoners in Kyuzugakure as a hidden force in the war. Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but interrupt. Wait, Garashi, how do you know? I also learned this from Wu-Wei. But for such an important thing, shouldn't he have a seal on him? The information he inadvertently revealed is enough for me to deduce the general process, and judging from his reaction, I should not be wrong. Garashi's tone was calm as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Yamanaka Inoichi was once again at a loss. Even the seal can be bypassed? Perhaps it was too much of a shock, Asma was already used to it. He reacted faster than Yamanaka Inoichi and asked, then can we spread the news and use it to cause internal strife in Rock Crypsis? You think too highly of him. With the prestige of Tsuchikage in Rock Crypsis, a Jonin can't change anything, but... Garashi pondered for a moment. This may be an opportunity to change the situation of Kyuzugakure. Asuma's eyes suddenly lit up. Garashi, you want to take this opportunity to eliminate Rock Crypsis in Kyuzugakure. Before his voice fell, Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly interrupted. No, it's too dangerous. No matter what, the enemy is also 2 Jonins, and many Chunin and Genin, and even the prisoners of Hozuki Castle. We can't fight against them at all. Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry, I'm not the kind of hot-blooded brute. Garashi smiled and comforted. Since I said so, I naturally have some preparations. Yes, Garashi must have thought of a way. Asuma was encouraging and suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, Brood isn't talking about me, is he? Thinking of Garashi's consistent performance, Yamanaka Inoichi also calmed down a little. What are you going to do? Garashi methodically analyzed. First of all, Wu Wei, as a descendant of the Hozuki Castle clan, he knows the Box of Bliss best. Therefore, the Rock Crypsis Jonin valued him so much and deliberately set a seal on him. And because of this seal, he most likely won't doubt Wu Wei's words. Hearing this, everyone already understood Garashi's plan. Red Face asked excitedly, is it to let Wu Wei drive a wedge between them? It's actually very difficult to succeed under normal circumstances, but... Garashi clasped his hands and held his chin. For those who have a guilty conscience, as long as there is a little doubt, it's enough to make them desperate. This is external, and the next is internal. Garashi looked at Yamanaka Inoichi with a dignified expression. Yamanaka-sensei, your clan's psychic secret jutsu should be able to do this. Hearing Garashi's detailed plan, Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes lit up, and finally, even he was moved. If the plan goes smoothly, maybe it's really possible to succeed. In this way, we can not only remove the Rock Crypsis's power in Kusanagi, but also let Kusanagi be hated by Rock Crypsis and finally return to our side of Woodleaf. Asuma nodded again and again. Even if the plan fails, we can let Garashi use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to take us away. Yamanaka Inoichi exhaled heavily. Well, I'll go crazy with you once. Chapter 87. At the same time, in Hashizuki Castle. In the underground darkroom. A burly middle-aged ninja stood in front of a huge box, gently stroking it, his eyes burning with desire. The legendary treasure of the 6 Paths Sage, wake up quickly and fulfill my wish. Naturally, the box didn't respond, but he didn't care. As long as he thought of the note he received this afternoon, he couldn't help but feel excited. Is the quality of the previous offerings too bad? It doesn't matter, I have found a better replacement, it won't take long. At this time, there was movement above the darkroom. Black Rock Sama, Yangdo Sama is here. Okay, I'll go up. Looking at the box of bliss with reluctance, Black Rock put on a smile and went out. Outside. Black Rock Sama, things are basically clear. After seeing Black Rock, Yangdo didn't talk much and went straight to the point. Woodleaf didn't notice our actions. When they leave, we can continue. Well. Black Rock pondered a little. Actually, I have a new idea. New idea? That's right, let those Konoha ninjas stay here forever. Black Rock Sama, isn't this too radical? Yangdo was shocked and asked. You are too steady, if you don't take risks, how can you win the war? Black Rock patted him on the shoulder and laughed. Yangdo frowned. But this way, our intentions will be completely exposed. Black Rock waved his hand indifferently. Your idea is still too rigid. If we invite those little ninjas to Rock Crypsis, maybe we can make Woodleaf united with us. Yangdo was still hesitant. But what if Woodleaf is not threatened? Or, should we ask Tsuchikage-sama? Black Rock was very unhappy. Are you the leader or am I the leader? By the time you ask, Wood Leaf will have already run away. Yang Do could only smile bitterly. Well, I'll let Wu Wei invite them, but you still have to be careful of that Yamanaka Inoichi. Black Rock instantly smiled. Don't worry, it's not the first time I've dealt with the Yamanaka clan. As long as I'm careful, their secret spirit jutsu won't work. Yang Do nodded. Wood Leaf's Inoshika butterfly combination was indeed powerful, but if it was just one of them, they just had to be a little more careful. Kuroto was about to leave when he hesitated and reminded, Kuroshi-san, the prisoners of Hozuki Castle should be handled with caution. If the other major ninja villages know that we are accommodating these combat forces, it will be troublesome. Black Stone smiled. Don't worry, no one will know. After Yang Do left, the smile on Blackstone's face slowly disappeared. Idiot, do you really think I'm interested in the strength of those prisoners? All I want is their chakra. As for the Tsuchikage, Inoki is old, and there should be a more suitable master for him. No, that's not right. As long as I can master the secret of the box of bliss, who cares about the Tsuchikage? I should be the master of this world. Hey, hey, hey. Huh. Just as he was feeling proud, a pigeon fell at his feet. The second time today? I should have told him not to contact me frequently, right? Blackrock's eyes were gloomy as he picked up the small paper tube. I hope it's important news, otherwise, huh? Just a glance, Blackrock's eyes widened. Damn. He dares. No wonder he told me this today. Was it to test me? Blackrock's eyes were uncertain, as if he had made a great decision. Don't blame me, I can't go back. The next day, early morning. Garashi, who had just finished his morning practice, stood in front of the mirror and said to himself, this plan, in addition to making Yamanaka-sensei pay more attention to my opinion, so as to pave the way for future actions, this experience is also essential. But before that, I must seal the most critical part of the memory. As for the key to unseal it, let's set it as Wood Leaf's perception enchantment. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated, his hands formed a seal, and finally pressed on his eyebrows. Outside the finance minister's mansion. Yang Do-sama, call me Blacklight, remember, my current identity is the deputy warden of Jioden. Yes, Blacklight-sama. Wu Wei changed his address and asked, but didn't you say yesterday that you don't need to care about them? Yang Do's face turned red, and he shouted, I didn't say that, you must have remembered it wrong. Without waiting for Wu Wei to answer, he guiltily turned his head, don't waste time, let's go in. Yes. The two walked in, pretended to talk with Ueno Shin, and then were led to the room of Garashi and others. Yamanaka-sensei. Wu Wei greeted from a distance. Wu Wei, you are? Yamanaka Inoichi asked doubtfully. This is our deputy warden of Jioden, Blacklight-sama. Wu Wei first introduced, and then invited, we came here today to ask Yamanaka-sensei to go to Jioden. Jioden? What are we going to do there? Asma asked in a timely manner. Let me explain, Yizichin said. Yang Do's face looked bitter. Oh, the situation in Jioden is too difficult, whether it's manpower or equipment, it's almost impossible to support. But our words carry little weight, and no one will care about what we say, so we want to ask a few Wood Leaf ninjas to be witnesses and tell Naruto-sama what they see. Yamanaka Inoichi frowned and seemed hesitant. Kurinai bit her lip and said pitifully, Yamanaka-sensei, why don't you help Wu Wei-sensei? Asma patted his chest and said, Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry. If the old man blames you for delay in returning to the village, you can put the blame on me. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled bitterly, well, but let's say in advance, at most, we will stay for another day. Naruto's son can influence the decision of a jonin, Wood Leaf's power is really corrupt. Yang Do despised in his heart, but his face was grateful, thank you so much, I will do my best to entertain you. It's just that this reception may not be the same as what you think, hee. Yang Do quickly lowered his head, worried that the other party would see his smile. On the side, looking at the secretly proud Yang Do, Wu Wei felt a burst of sympathy. Sure enough, it's the same as last time, only you don't know that you are the one being played. Wait, it seems wrong. Last time, it was the 4 of them who played me, but this time, it's the 5 of us who played him. Moreover, Black Rock may be thinking about how to kill him now. Thinking of this, Wu Wei only felt that the word miserable was written all over Yang Dou's body, and he couldn't bear to look directly at it. Chapter 88. In the gloomy and treacherous fog, a high city loomed. It's really rude to let several distinguished guests come to such a place. Yang Dou stood on the deck and looked at Garashi and others apologetically. Hey, we just came here once and it's so uncomfortable. It's hard to imagine how you usually come here. Yamanaka and Noichi also followed the act. It's not easy for everyone. Yang Dou shook his head with emotion and then invited, then let's go in now. Entering the gate of the Ghost Lantern City, Black Rock was already waiting. Let me introduce you, this is our Ghost Lantern City's lord, Black Rock-sama. Yang Dou said while winking at Black Rock. But Black Rock just ignored it and enthusiastically pulled Yamanaka and Noichi. I'm so happy that you can come. Everyone go and sit down first, I'll arrange the banquet. Yamanaka and Noichi declined. No, Black Rock-sama, you're too polite, Black Rock said with a straight face, you're not giving me face. Although our Ghost Lantern City is remote, we're not people who don't know etiquette. Yamanaka and Noichi smiled bitterly. In that case, thank you for your hospitality. Seeing this, Black Rock smiled with satisfaction. That's right. Wu Wei, take the guests to sit down first, Black Light and I will prepare the ingredients. Yes. When they left, Yang Dou asked puzzledly, Black Rock-sama, why didn't you do it directly? Black Rock shook his head and smiled. When you should be steady, you're not steady. Yamanaka and Noichi is a jonin. If you push him too hard, it will cause us a lot of losses. After all, it's not easy to catch them alive. Yang Dou instantly woke up. Yes, we're here to catch people. It's harder to catch them alive than to kill them. Black Rock said with a smile, so, we have to wait patiently for an opportunity. Opportunity? Yang Dou's eyes lit up. Black Rock-sama, are you going to poison the banquet? But halfway through, he frowned again. That Yamanaka and Noichi is a jonin. He should be familiar with all kinds of poisons. It's hard to just poison him, right? Black Rock calmly asked, have you forgotten how Ghost Light City got its name? Yang Dou suddenly realized, Gui Deng. It's the ghost lanterns that grow all around the island. Black Rock nodded slightly. This ghost lantern is a specialty of the island. It's impossible for him to recognize it. Moreover, ordinary ghost lanterns won't cause any problems after eating them, but the white variant will cause paralysis all over. Yang Dou clapped his hands and smiled. We can eat the regular ghost lantern first to make them less vigilant. Then, we can grind the white mutants and hide them in the regular ghost lantern. When the drugs take effect, they will be at our mercy. Black Rock laughed as well. Furthermore, ghost lantern isn't poison. It'll be even harder for them to discover it. At this point, the two looked at each other and smiled. An hour later, in the spacious hall. All kinds of sweet and delicious food filled the table. At a glance, it was enough to make people hungry. Distinguished guests, this is a banquet held to thank you, so please don't be shy. Black Rock sat in the main seat and said enthusiastically. Really? Then I'm going to start eating. Asuma shouted and began to eat heartily. What a forthright guest. Let's eat. Yang Dou said with a smile and started to eat. Seeing this, the people at the table no longer hesitated and joined the ranks of the battle. Is it finally going to start? Black Rock was almost trembling with excitement, but he still restrained himself. No, it's not the time to be happy yet. We can't let them find out the problem. If there is, we can use conversation to divert their attention. Thinking of this, Black Rock suddenly said with a smile. Have you heard? The Kazakage of Sand Crypsis village may be dead. Puff, everyone at the table spat out a mouthful of saliva. Yang-do was even more confused. Why did Black Rock Senpai suddenly let himself go? Yamanaka and Noichi couldn't help but ask, Castellan, is this news accurate? Black Rock smiled, it's not clear whether he's dead or not, but the disappearance has basically been confirmed. Let's continue eating. Everyone ate the food with a heavy heart, inexplicably feeling that a storm was coming. Black Rock said with a smile, there are not many people in the shinobi world who have the ability to kill or kidnap the Kazekage. Sand Crypsis will most likely suspect the Kages of various villages, and the closest villages to Sand Crypsis village are Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis, ahem. Yang-do coughed twice and reminded, Castellan, we are weak. Let's not talk about this kind of thing, okay? Black Rock laughed and said, it's my fault. Everyone continued to eat. At this moment, Asma's eyes suddenly widened, and his hands and feet twitched as he fell down. What happened to me? Asuma, you. Before he could finish his sentence, Rinse and Red fell to the ground one after another. No, it's poisonous. Yamanaka and Noichi was a jonin, and he barely held on for a moment, looking at Black Rock and others angrily. Who the hell are you? Why did you do this? Seeing his angry look, the other ninjas on the table laughed. Idiot, of course we're Rock Crypsis people. Hey, I didn't expect that even Naruto's son fell into our hands. Woodleaf's ninjas are really useless, we just used a trick, but before they could finish their words, their legs twitched and they fell to the ground. What's going on? I know, the person who drugged them must have mixed them up and made all the berries mutant. Damn, is there anyone who didn't get poisoned? Of course, I'm fine. Black Rock chuckled and stood up. A Rock Crypsis Chunin shouted excitedly, Great, Black Rock Sama, hurry up and solve it for us, boom. The Chunin who spoke was kicked out by his foot. Seeing this scene, the Rock Crypsis couldn't believe it. Black Rock Sama, what are you doing? Black Rock sighed deeply, are you all idiots? At this time, you don't think I'm on your side, do you? Their last fantasy was ruthlessly broken, and the Rock Crypsis were all angry. You bastard, how dare you betray Rock Crypsis? Damn it, what did the village do to you? Yang-do pointed at him with a trembling finger, are you from Sand Crypsis, Yunnan, or Kirin? I'm not from any side, I only belong to myself. Black Rock laughed wildly, Wu-wei, get up, go seal their chakra as the last sacrifice for the box of bliss. Chapter 89. Hearing Black Rock summon, Wu-wei stood up from the collapsed crowd, yes. Seeing this, Yang-do's eyes widened again, you've been colluding for a long time? Black Rock smiled happily, Yang-do, you can only blame yourself for being too stupid. Do you think you're monitoring him? In fact, I asked him to monitor you. Yang-do's face was full of shame and suddenly realized a problem, wait. Did you just say the box of bliss? Black Rock squinted, it seems that you don't know anything. Yang-do said angrily, that kind of thing is a false lie. You betrayed Rock Crypsis for a lie. Black Rock's face sank, enough. Don't say any more. If you didn't push me too hard, I wouldn't have to take risks like this. In short, I'll sacrifice you first, and if it's not enough, I'll sacrifice the entire Ghost Lantern City. And I'll definitely open it. We forced you? Yang-do was wondering, and then he saw Wu-wei approaching him step by step. As Wu-wei's former boss, he naturally knew the power of the other side's confinement jutsu, and he didn't dare to continue to delay. Don't underestimate Rock Crypsis. Earth release, earth flow river. Wu-wei's pupils shrank, and he quickly dodged before the earth under his feet turned into a river. You can still use jutsu, but I underestimated your will. Looking at Yang-do's slightly trembling body, Black Rock understood that the other side actually didn't get rid of the paralysis effect of the mutated Ghost Lantern, he was just forcibly controlling his body. You want me to surrender with a mere paralysis? Yang-do made a defensive posture and shouted, Yamanaka and Noichi, don't pretend to be asleep, I know you can stand up. However, Yamanaka and Noichi was lying on the ground, without any movement. That guy. Blackrock's eyes narrowed slightly, and he now suspected that the other side might be pretending to be asleep. However, this is also good. If the two Jonins joined forces, he would be in trouble. Now, a half-disabled Jonin can be dealt with easily. You bastard, can't you see the big picture? Yang Do was still there, and Blackrock took the opportunity to attack. Earth Release, Earth Dragon Bullet. A huge Earth Dragon head appeared beside Blackrock, continuously spitting Earth bullets at Blackrock. Earth Escape, Return of the Earth. Yang Do hurriedly slapped the ground in front of him, flipping over a piece of floorboard to block his front. Bang, bang, the mud pellets hit the stone floor and flew in all directions, causing the dust on the ceiling to rustle and fall. Fortunately, the hall was spacious enough. Otherwise, the shockwaves from their first exchange would have buried the others alive. That bastard. Yang Do looked at a certain someone who was sleeping soundly and gritted his teeth. Earth Escape, Earth Clone. The four Yangdo ran in the direction of Yamanaka Inoichi, apparently forcing him to join the battle. Don't even think about messing around. Blackrock quickly formed a seal and pressed it onto the ground. Earth Release, Earth Spear. Sharp earth spikes suddenly protruded from the ground and pierced through Yang Do's earth clone. Seeing that Yamanaka Inoichi still didn't respond, Yang Do secretly hated, forget it, this guy is hopeless. It's a good thing that Woodleaf is a bunch of impulsive people. Blackrock was secretly happy, but he didn't want to provoke them. Earth Release, Rock Pillar Prison. A rock pillar rose into the sky, imprisoning Yang Do inside. Yang Do's face changed slightly, and he subconsciously began to form a seal. Earth Release, Hardening Technique. Sure enough, the rock pillar split into countless thin spikes in the next moment, nailing his body like a board of nails. Kacha, in a teeth-numbing sound, the spikes broke. But Yang Do's face didn't look good. Not only is the seal slow, even the flow of chakra in my body is somewhat sluggish. This level of hardening technique can't block much damage at all. Seeing Blackrock waving his heavy rock fist, breaking the rock pillar and rushing towards him, Yang Do hurriedly used earth diving technique to escape from the ground. He knew very well that he couldn't be Blackrock's opponent in this state. He could only delay as much time as possible, hoping that the effects of the other rock crypsis would pass as soon as possible. Annoying Loach. Blackrock's pursuit was fruitless, and he was feeling anxious. Suddenly, he realized that the other party seemed to be deliberately leading him away from a certain direction. Oh. So this is your plan? Although it's just a boring delusion, but I just like to break delusion. Blackrock stopped and walked towards the corner with a grin. In the corner, a group of rock crypsis ninjas were desperate. Don't you want to stand up and save your pitiful subordinates? Damn it, I'll kill you. A rock crypsis ninja struggled to stand up and wanted to join the battle. But even the shuriken he shot was crooked, so it was impossible for him to succeed. Blackrock didn't hesitate and directly pierced the ninja's heart with his earth spear. Then, he began to form seals towards the second person. This time, Yang Do, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't bear it anymore. Earth Release, Heart Beheading Technique. The ground under Blackrock's feet turned over and swallowed him whole, leaving only his head exposed. But in the next moment, the trapped Blackrock disappeared from everyone's eyes. Not good, it's the Earth clone. Yang Do knew that it was bad, but he didn't have time to think and quickly used hardening technique to protect his body. Whoosh! A ball of pure white light suddenly burst out in the hall, blinding everyone's eyes. When the light dissipated, everyone saw the situation in front of them. Blackrock's arm was inserted in Yang Do's chest and came out from his back. The Thunder Escape technique defeats the Earth Escape technique. You've lost. Blackstone whispered in his ear and happily pulled his arm out. No, Yang Do-sama. It's over. It's all over. A group of rock crypsis ninjas looked at Woodleaf with despair and hatred. In their view, if this group of Woodleaf ninjas could temporarily put aside their previous grievances, it was possible to defeat Black Rock. Now, everyone was dead for sure. At this time, Yamanaka and Noichi, who had been pretending to be dead, suddenly turned over and rushed up. Seeing this, those rock Crypsis ninjas were mocking him. What's the use of attacking now? Do you think Black Rock will be careless in his ecstasy? Ha, idiot, I've been waiting for you here. Black Rock laughed, the so-called spiritual secret jutsu, as long as you are careful, but at this moment, a blue ball appeared in Yamanaka Inoichi's hand. Black Rock, who had been guarding against the opponent's spiritual secret jutsu, was at a loss. When did the Yamanaka clan become so good? Although somewhat confused, Black Rock could still perceive the great power contained in the ball and subconsciously wanted to avoid it. Ninjutsu, Heart Confusion Jutsu. Black Rock's body stiffened and lost control of his body. How is this possible? I've been careful. Black Rock was terrified, but from the corner of his eyes, he caught a glimpse of a small figure making a jutsu gesture. He's also a Yamanaka? No, I understand. Black Rock's eyes were shocked, and then he was sent flying by Yamanaka Inoichi's ball. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.